It is 5 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We've got traffic, we've got weather, and they are coming up next. All eyes on Moscow after the U.S. seizure of a pair of sanctioned tankers linked to Venezuela, including a Russian-flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic and another in the Caribbean Sea. This all went down yesterday. ABC's Luis Martinez has more.
It really raises questions about what happens next, because we know that Russia has its own Black Fleet, but this is really more about Venezuela's Black Fleet.
Black Fleet, you mean like ships that sort of sail into the dark of night carrying illicit goods?
Exactly. Ships that are they're ghost ships, actually, is what they're called, because they spoof their transponders. That's how you track where ships are in the ocean. They'll spoof that they are in the Pacific Ocean, and they're actually there off the coast of Venezuela.
That from the ABC's Start Here podcast. A Republican member of the Senate Armed Services Committee confirms the U.S. would like to buy Greenland, but denies the U.S. wants to invade the territory. ABC's Lindsay Davis spoke to Senator Mark Wayne Mullen.
It's a strategically placed, very important position for us, but for us to go in there and commit troops, that is absolutely not going to happen.
But Denmark has said again and again and again, Greenland is not for sale. So once we get to that point, then what?
Well, everybody says that until it is for sale.
Back here in Nashville, two area businesses targeted in early morning smash and grab burglaries, leaving both storefronts severely damaged. According to Metro Police, at about 2 o'clock yesterday morning, 4 suspects in a stolen Kia Soul vehicle broke into Hibbett Sports on Mountain View Road in Antioch. They took shoes and clothing. And about 30 minutes later, the same vehicle drove through the front of Wireless Zone on Nolensville Pike. Surveillance video of the burglary showed the suspects entering the store, destroying display cases and filling bags with merchandise. The suspects were described by Metro Police as 4 possibly younger Hispanic men in dark clothing who were driving that stolen brown Kia Soul vehicle. The Market Numbers Report is brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. You can find them online at beaconcm.com. Taking a look at the stock futures before the opening bell, the Dow down 154, the S&P's down 15, and the NASDAQ, it's down 80. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather. They're coming up next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. We don't have any accidents or breakdowns, but if you are coming in from Murfreesboro on 24 westbound in the Laverne area, they've got some road work. They're actually clearing the barrels out of the roadway there, but only one lane is open. I got stuck in this crap myself at 4 o'clock this morning. One lane open. It is backed up from Old Hickory Boulevard all the way back to Sam Ridley. Once you get to Old Hickory, it starts to clear out, but prepare to sit there a while. I'm looking at traffic cameras. It is still jammed up on 24 westbound. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We talk.
5:06, Nashville's morning news on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you, friends. Hope you are doing well. The headline on CNN, outrage after ICE officer kills U.S. citizen in Minneapolis. So I guess the question is, why are you outraged? For me, I'm outraged that that U.S. citizen was using her car as a weapon and driving towards an ICE officer, forcing him to kill that U.S. citizen. So I want to get through all of this because there's a lot here. I mean, you've got the emboldening of these folks in Minneapolis and all across the country, the emboldening of U.S. citizens to go out and do everything that they possibly can to stop ICE from doing their jobs. You know, peaceful protests don't actually mean using your car and trying to stop ICE from driving down the road. That's not what a peaceful protest is. Now, am I upset that this poet, Renee Good, was shot and killed? Yeah, it sucks. Was it senseless? Absolutely. Was it preventable? Absolutely. She should not have been using her car to try to stop ICE from doing their job. Now, here's the deal. They told her, and if you've seen the video, follow me on X, at Dan Manda Show. I've got a number of different angles from yesterday's shooting, but I'm telling you, the officer, at least to me, didn't seem to have much of a choice. Now, I will give it to you. And by the way, this is falling along political lines. Everybody knows this, right? If you've noticed anything, you'll notice if you are anti-Donald Trump, then you believe that this was murder. If you are pro-Donald Trump and pro-ICE and pro, getting a lot of these illegal aliens out, well, then you understand why the shooting happened, because she was driving towards a police officer, an ICE officer. Now, and if you watch, I've got the video here on Super Talk TV. She goes into reverse, and then as one ICE agent has his hands on the door handle, by the way, they've already told her to get out of the car. Just so you know, they've already told her to get the F out of the car. So she already knows that she's supposed to be getting out of the car, and she is not listening to the commands or demands of law enforcement. So she backs it up, then she starts driving forward, and that is where she, unfortunately, is driving right towards the ICE officer, who opens fire and hits her apparently 3 times in the head. Now, I'm going to say this one thing and know that I understand why the ICE agent felt like his life was in danger. However, I am also going to say that if you look at where the ICE agent is, which is near the driver's side bumper, the front of the car, right? That's the bumper.
Front fender.
Fender. Is that the fender? All right. So the front of the car, the fender. She is making, or at least it looks like she's trying to make, a hard right turn. I can't tell if she's trying to avoid him. I don't know exactly what she was trying to do. But the bottom line is that the ICE officer isn't looking at the tires. He's overall looking at this woman as they are telling her to stop, and she's driving right towards the officer. And so you're going to have a lot of people who are going to say that this was, an unnecessary act of force by the ICE agent. But I will tell you, I'm a supporter of ICE. I'm a supporter of Donald Trump, and I'm a supporter of law and order. I see how that ICE agent didn't have much of a choice.
Well, and you bring up a point no one else has really been talking about since this happened yesterday, in that what he is looking at is someone behind the wheel,
right,
with no idea what she's going to do when she starts moving.
Right. So if you look at the tires, she's making a right turn, but he's looking at in fact, he may have been, Sam, he may have been so close to the car that he actually couldn't see the tires.
No, I think that's because he's already looking down his line of sight at her windshield.
Right.
And then the second angle on the second half of the clip, I think that really shows he's out in front.
Yeah.
He might be positioning himself out of the way, but he doesn't have that time to make that decision.
Can I ask this question as well? Everybody is saying, oh, this woman has a 6-year-old. Oh, the tragedy. She's actually got 3 kids, Renee Good, a 6-year-old, and 2 other kids. Now, when my kids were small, and now I've got Riker, who is 12 years old, but if you've got little kids, or kids generally speaking, you have absolutely no right to be putting yourself in danger. You have an obligation to your children to stay safe. Now, if you want to go out, you want to, right to protest and free speech and all of that, do it on the sidewalk with your sign. But this emboldening of criminal behavior by the American people is courtesy of people like Tim Walz and Gavin Newsom and all of these people on the left. Now, there is a lot to this. I got to tell you that, and by the way, I would love to hear your thoughts, and we're going to take some phone calls. 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. If you're interested in actually talking about this as opposed to utilizing the super text line, you want to call up right now, I'd love to take your calls. 615-737-9986. Super text line is open as well. But here's the deal. When we talk about the emboldening of this criminal behavior, free speech does not entail using your car as an avenue to stop ICE from doing their jobs. Tim Walz was in rare form yesterday, and here's what he had to say.
We've been warning for weeks that the Trump administration's dangerous, sensationalized operations are a threat to our public safety, that someone was going to get hurt. Just yesterday, I said exactly that. What we're seeing is the consequences of governance designed to generate fear, headlines, and conflict. It's governing by reality TV. And today that recklessness cost someone their life.
Okay, so, I mean, look, I can do this all day long. You want to talk about recklessness, Tim Walz? What about the recklessness of government officials basically emboldening and encouraging people to go out and try to stop ICE from doing their job? Now, listen, I'm not victim shaming. But what I am saying is that, because I don't, revel in the fact that a woman was killed. I don't. But when I see all of the demonization of ICE, and when I see all of this nasty rhetoric regarding ICE and how they're, Nazis and just all that crap that we always hear, then you hear the rhetoric from these people that are in public office emboldening this criminal behavior, then yeah, I would say that is reckless. I would say that what Tim Walz and Mayor Jacob Frey and many others on the left have been saying about Donald Trump and ICE has been reckless. And then you gin up all of this, anxiety and anger in people in your party. And these are the things, unfortunately, that happen.
To Minnesotans, I say this. I feel your anger. I'm angry. They want a show. We can't give it to them. We cannot. If you protest and express your First Amendment rights, please do so peacefully, as you always do. We can't give them what they want. And from here on, I have a very simple message. We do not need any further help from the federal government.
Really? Could have fooled me because, listen, you still got a whole bunch of people from Somalia that are there. And by the way, let me ask you this question. Why do we have this big surge of ICE agents in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, because word is through, investigations and so forth that up to 50% of those Somalians are here through immigration fraud. And who's that on? Is that on ICE? No, that's on Minnesota, under the clearly not so careful watch of one Tim Walz, the Attorney General Keith Ellison as well, and of course you've got Ilhan Omar. So don't just sit here, I would say to Tim Walz, don't just sit here and play Mickey the Dummy and say, oh, ICE is bad and I don't know why in the heck they're here anyway. You know, Governor, exactly why they are here. It is because of all of the fraud, immigration and otherwise, that has been going on in your state, which, by the way, in my opinion, you've had a hand in. That's why ICE is here. The words that he's been using in this speech from yesterday, dangerous, conflict, a threat to public safety, talking about ICE, those are, let's be honest, those are words that are going to embolden anger and fury in the people on his side. It is 5:15. Time to check the roads on WTN.
No accidents or breakdowns in the metro area. However, they are still clearing some road work on I-24 westbound in Laverne, and they were down to one lane there. Again, they're removing the barrels, but the backup is still considerable from Old Hickory Boulevard all the way to Sam Ridley Parkway. So be prepared to sit in that for a while. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
How long were you in that traffic for?
Oh,
Jay?
gosh.
Got a text message from Jay at what was it, 4:35?
Nah,
I'm stuck in I-24.
I know, it was like 4:20 or so. But yeah, I mean, I normally, zip through there. But no, I sat in that stuff about 20, 25 minutes, just sitting there.
But you know what, Jay?
4 in the morning.
You know what, Jay? Your 5 o'clock was fire.
Man, wasn't it, though?
It's amazing how good you can be under stress. So, well done, Jay. Thank you very much.
All right, man.
This is John in Smyrna's on WTN. John, what do you think?
Good morning, guys. I'd like to give you my narrative of what I saw. The first officer approaching the driver's side was engaged with the woman inside. She starts to roll forward slowly, and the other officer on the passenger side walked over in front of the car. Now, he's positioned somewhere in about the middle, about 10 feet away from the bumper. So he slowly moves over, but she's engaged with the officer on the door, and she goes to lunge forward to get away from him, not realizing that officer is now about headlight, lined up with the headlight of the front of the car. He starts to pull his weapon when she starts to be aggressive. Now, you see these other protesters always sitting on or leaning on the hoods of these Border Patrol vehicles, trying to stop these Border Patrol officers from rolling. Mm-hmm. She engaged and pushed the gas, realized in front of her that he was there, and sharply turned the wheel, and that's when he discharged his firearm. He protected himself, but she saw him at the last second and turned hard right to avoid him, but he's already engaged and she's already made the aggressive moves. He had every right to shoot her because he had no idea that she was going to quickly turn that right turn.
That's exactly right.
I think it was a justified shot.
All right, John, thank you very much. I appreciate it. This is Tim in Nashville on WTN. Tim, go ahead.
Good morning, Dan. If the left would quit harping on us and just do what an officer tells them to do, then we wouldn't have these problems. My father taught me growing up, if an officer tells you to give you your license and registration, you do that. Just do what you're supposed to do. The left is ginning these people up, your term, and that's where all this is coming from.
Well, you're right, and as I said in my monologue, Tim, if you've got a sick, because everybody's upset because this woman has a 6-year-old kid who is now, they say, going to be an orphan. Well, okay, but that's not ICE's fault. The woman put herself in that position. The woman made the cognitive choice to use her car to try and stop ICE from doing their job. That was the choice that she made to put herself in a dangerous position. And unfortunately, she messed around and found out, and she lost. And Tim, I appreciate the call. Very quickly, Maggie in Nashville on WTN. Hey, Maggie.
Hey, good morning, Mr. Dan. So this is a very hard situation. I think I'm an immigrant. I'm a permanent resident from Germany here in the United States. I stay away from all of this, no protest. And you are right, the left, they spread so much hate. You should never interfere, with the police or with ICE agents to let them do their job. She, unfortunately, she made a bad decision and it cost her life. I saw the video. To me, it seems like she want to run into the officer. I'm not sure. But there is so much hate from the left, they constantly attack these officers. It's really sad. I traveled all over the world. I come in and out of the country. I never had any issues. I renewed my permanent residence. Under the first term of President Trump, I had no problems. And I also say this, when you come to another country like me, I'm a guest here, even I lived here many years, you need to follow the law. If these Somalians doing fraud, and fraud is the number one thing you get deported for. Obviously, they don't understand the immigration rights when they apply for status in the United States.
Well, and Maggie, I appreciate the call. I got to run, but you're right on a number of different fronts. And these folks, why, again, I'll say, why was ICE there? ICE was there because of all of the rampant fraud. That's why the Trump administration has this ICE surge. Here's a little bit more from Tim Waltz.
To Donald Trump and Kristi Noem, you've done enough. There's nothing more important than Minnesotan safety. I've issued a warning order to prepare the Minnesota National Guard. We have soldiers in training and prepared to be deployed if necessary. I remind you, a warning order is a heads up for folks. And these National Guard troops are our National Guard troops. They're teachers in your community. Mm-hmm. They're business owners. They're construction professionals. They are Minnesotans. Minnesota will not allow our community to be used as a prop in a national political fight.
Wow.
We will not take the bait.
So that is Tim Waltz. I've got about 4 more audio bites from him from that incredibly divisive speech, and we'll listen to some of those coming up here after the news with Jay Harper. Real quickly, because I don't want poor Patrick to have to wait, 20 minutes on hold. So, Patrick, go ahead. Murfreesboro, how are you?
Good morning. I've been in law enforcement in Middle Tennessee for over 25 years, and hands are typically the most important thing to watch when you're dealing with anybody who might be a threat. So looking at tires is ridiculous. Second, I've seen this over the course of my career, news stories where we have an incident and we get the tip of the iceberg. There is so much more to this that we don't know, and everyone, I know y'all have to talk about it, and I understand that. Mm-hmm. But everybody just jumps to opinions and lives in their vacuum and hears what they want to hear, sees what they want to see, but they don't see or get all of the facts before making a decision. It's frustrating.
So Patrick, when you look at it, what would you say about whether or not the officer, based on your experience, was justified in shooting? Would you say it was self-defense?
I intentionally have not watched the video because I don't want any bias before all the facts come out. I've just read several different news stories, listened to several broadcasts, listened to several different radio shows about it, and to me it sounds like we don't know enough to have an opinion.
Well, here's what we know, Patrick. What we know is that she was using her car to try to impede ICE from doing their job. She used her car. She was stopped in the middle of the road or the intersection, blocking ICE. She was told to get out of the car. She would not get out of the car. She intentionally tried to drive away, and she was driving towards a police officer who then shot and killed her. The video very much spells that out. So I don't know. Let me ask you this, and I don't want to fight. It's way too early for that. But so are you saying that I shouldn't be talking about this, or I shouldn't be forming an opinion? It seems to me like all the evidence is there. It's out there.
No. I'm not saying you shouldn't talk about it because that'd be ridiculous. And based on the information that you have to be able to talk about it, I get it. Like I said, I understand it. I'm talking about the masses as a general rule tend to just jump on board whichever train they ride.
Yeah.
And beat the drum, and they don't have all of the facts for it. Like, we don't know what authority does ICE actually have to stop traffic. I'm sure they have it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I mean, here's what I would say, Patrick. Number one, I mean, if you want to talk about authority, we can. I mean, there's federal authority. They have federal authority to enforce federal immigration laws. I mean, they do. I don't know what the case number is or whatever, but I'm sure we can find that in about 5 seconds. What were you saying off? You told me in Q, Sam, something about the laws in Minnesota where they have got to stop if they're pulled over?
It's pretty much every state in the country has an implied consent law. When you get your driver's license, you make an agreement with the state that you will comply with peace officers, and mandatory compliance during traffic stops in Minnesota is a thing. And obedience to signals and listening to lawful commands is one of those.
Yeah, and here's the deal. I get what Patrick is saying. I do. I understand that is the world today. But when we talk about, and this is where, Patrick and I probably, may agree on this. You did have Jacob Fry. You did have Tim Waltz. You also had Kristi Noem. Everybody within the administrations on both sides were jumping onto the conversation as well. But here's the deal, Patrick, is that, and I appreciate the call, the video was out there, and we all know what was going on. I mean, it's just the stories within like 15, 20 minutes, it was obvious what was happening. So I think, to be perfectly honest, I don't exactly know what else we need as far as evidence goes, because it is all out there on the video, multiple angles. We got to go. I am so late. 5:27, Nashville's Morning News on WTN.
32 minutes past 5 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Traffic and weather also on the way. All eyes on Moscow after the U.S. seizure of a pair of sanctioned tankers linked to Venezuela, including a Russian-flagged oil tanker in the North Atlantic and another in the Caribbean Sea. This all went down yesterday. ABC's Louis Martinez, he was on ABC's Start Here podcast.
The United Kingdom has now acknowledged that they provided assistance to this raid in the form of letting their bases be used as launch points, and that they also provided a large vessel that may have been used by the personnel, the helicopters that were used in this operation.
Let's get a quick update on the market numbers report. It's brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. They're online at beaconcm.com. Here is Jim Ryan.
The Dow Jones on Wednesday pulled way back from the record it set earlier in the week, giving up 466 points yesterday to close back below 49,000. The S&P lost 0.33%, but the Nasdaq Composite rose slightly on the strength of tech stocks. Among the tech giants, Samsung expects its operating profit to have tripled in the final 3 months of last year to nearly $14 billion. Industry watchers cite surging demand for Samsung's AI-related semiconductors. Job hunters are finding fewer options. New federal numbers show openings in November fell to a 14-month low. But at the same time, the pace of layoffs has also slowed, solidifying what economists are calling a no-hire, no-fire situation. Consumers are getting a break on their grocery bills. The National Milk Producers Federation tells USA Today that oversupply and weakening demand are pushing down the price of dairy products.
Let's take a look at the stock futures before the opening bell. The Dow down 141, the S&P down 12.5, the Nasdaq, it's down 65. That's the latest news, traffic and weather. There next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. We're looking good from an accident and breakdown standpoint. However, on 24 westbound in Laverne, we've still got that stop and go traffic. There was some earlier road work that had the interstate down to one lane, and the residual backup is still there. It's backed up from about Old Hickory Boulevard past Sam Ridley Parkway. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
538, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you. Jay Harper here, along with Sam Weatherford. Hey, Jay.
Yes, sir.
Is there anything you want to tell me? Is there just anything at all you want to tell me? Just anything I need to know? How about you, Sam? Anything I need to know?
I don't know. It might be a bit on the nose to say it.
Because it has only come to my attention fairly recently that I have a red nose.
Really?
Yeah. Did you know that I had a red nose, Jay?
No, Rudolph, I haven't really picked up on that. I mean, it's kind of dark from, it's weird. Dan, in all the time you've been here, have you ever sat in this news booth and kind of observed things?
I've done many a radio show in that booth before they had other studios. But
okay. So, I mean, it's kind of dark. I can't really see you all that well.
7799 says this. And by the way, he or she is very nice. But it brings me to something that actually, for whatever reason, I'm 58 years old and I never realized. Dan, you look great. Nice hat, nice shirt. Thank you. Did you have your honey allergy remedy? 1 tablespoon of local honey per day, and your red nose will go away. Good luck. So I'm like...
Sounds like a witch's spell.
So Amy says to me the other day, hey, you looked really good today. Thank you, honey. Your nose isn't as red as usual.
So this is all like...
All of a sudden, in the last week, people are telling me that I've got a red nose. I don't understand. I mean, I didn't realize I had such a red nose. And then I'm telling Sam about it over the break, and he said, oh, yeah, you've got your nose could, if air traffic control ever loses their flashlights, just... nod your head back and forth.
No. I said it looks like a strawberry on the ripening.
Much better, Sam. Thank you. So I didn't know that I had a red nose. So now I'm going to...
see if Contours can do anything about that.
Hey, Contours, can you do anything about my red nose?
With your red light technology?
With your red light technology, they can probably make it redder.
Or shrink it.
And I said, honey... Wow. I said, honey, what do you mean my nose isn't as red as usual? She says, you've got a red nose. And I said, what do you mean? Dan, honey, I love you. Your nose is red.
How dare you?
I said, okay. So, of course, now immediately I go to the bathroom to look in the mirror to see if I've got a red nose. I never watch the videos on YouTube of the show. I go to the show YouTube, and now I guess my nose is red.
Is that why you turn the lights down in there?
Yeah, I was going to say, it's so darn dark in there. You can't really see it.
I don't know. But I guess my nose is red. Whatever. Anyway, thank you, 7799.
I did put a picture of you into Grok and tried to make it into a little animated character, and you look like the Kleenex kid.
Anyway, thank you, 7799. I know she meant well. It's all good. I'm actually using that as a way to make fun of myself. Honest to goodness, I had no idea that I had a red nose until just now. So, well, not just now, but when Amy told me, I'm going to ask my daughter next time I talk to her, did you notice that I had a red nose?
Damn straight we did.
Okay, we got to move on. More on Tim Waltz, and real quick. So, because I do believe, and the super text line is on fire on this thing. I do believe in protesters taking to the streets in several states. They were burning American flags in Minneapolis. Coming up in the 6 o'clock hour, we are going to, I don't know. We'll talk about some of the officers that were pepper spraying some of the protesters yesterday. I'm going to tell you that, and I this may be my own personal failing, but I don't like to see people get hurt. But when you are trying to abscond with an officer's gun or reach for an officer's belt, or you're putting your hands on said officer and or law enforcement, you're going to get pepper sprayed. It's just a fact. Jack. Anyway, here's more from Tim Walz.
This was totally predictable, as I said it yesterday, and it was totally avoidable. And I just want to remind you, too, that local law enforcement, we get no coordination. They don't tell us they're coming. They don't say why they're sending the largest deployment in American history.
The reason why they're sending the largest deployment in American history is because you have a massive amount of Somalis there that are accused of committing fraud, immigration fraud and financial fraud, welfare fraud, whatever fraud you want to call it. And that's why they're there. I mean, your state, Tim Walz, under you, has become a complete and utter train wreck. I don't know what's going on in Minnesota. We had the whole thing with 5 years ago. What was his name?
George Floyd.
George Floyd. How could I forget? Had the whole thing with George Floyd. Had all that going on as well. So, Minnesota has just turned into, under serious leftist rule, just a lawless mess. So, yeah, Tim Walz, that's why what's happening is happening.
To Minneapolis, they're not making us any safer. We don't have any of that coordination. They should be talking to us when we do these things. Let us know. We're going to be down here. This is going to happen. We don't have that. So when you see local law enforcement or state patrol, or if it would take the National Guard, we're there responding to the chaos they've created too, but our role is to make sure that we're protecting Minnesotans so that something like this doesn't happen.
So so apparently he's called out the National Guard now, Tim Walz has. So I'm trying to figure out, though, and you know what? Jonathan Fahey is going to join us here in the 6 o'clock hour. So I'm going to ask Jonathan Fahey, okay, so what is the role of the Minnesota National Guard? Is the role of the Minnesota National Guard just to keep people on the sidewalk and ensure that they don't get in the way of ICE vehicles as they're trying to do their job? I don't know. What I'm hoping, and I don't think it would come to this, but what I'm hoping is that, they're not put in a situation, the Minnesota National Guard, they're not put in a situation where they are in conflict with federal law enforcement and ICE agents. But, one thing that I'm noticing is Tim Walz actually not accepting any accountability for what happened. He is the one that has been demonizing ICE. He is the one that has been challenging the Trump administration. Of course, we could talk about the AG, Keith Ellison. We could talk about the mayor, Jacob Fry, talk about all these people. But he has been the one that has been stirring up the anger of the Minnesotans, as they say. And this woman, again, made the decision to do what she did, bottom line. So when everybody says, oh, this was so preventable, you're damn right it was preventable. And she shouldn't have been out there with a 6-year-old. By the way, Walz, no shock here, continues to demonize the federal government and ICE.
Well, I said this yesterday. We've never been at war with our federal government.
Wow.
I think the thing that is so challenging in the moment we're in is we don't see a desire to work with us on public safety. We hear a demonization of our state. We see people coming in who don't know our community. And we see this massive display for the TVs that we're trying to understand, how is this coordinated?
Mickey the Dummy. You ever hear of Mickey the Dummy? Do you know what I mean when I say that? Mickey the Dummy, somebody who just, refuses to admit, it's gaslighting, refusing to admit what has been going on in Minnesota. We don't know what's going on or why this is all happening. It must be for the TV cameras. No, Tim. It's because of all of the fraud, immigration, and otherwise that has been going on in your state that you have allowed. And the words about being at war with the federal government is, another indication that he is way out of line, Tim Walz. ICE was there because of the immigration fraud, pure and simple. When you allow your state to devolve into fraud and abuse of federal immigration laws, there is going to be a response. Do you know what happens? Do you know what happens when you have no response to, thousands of people breaking our federal immigration laws? Well, then they become emboldened to commit further fraud. And then people ultimately end up getting, like these folks from Somalia, people end up getting, collectively hundreds of millions of dollars, billions of dollars in fraudulent, ill-gotten gains because they're ripping off the government. So, yeah, there's going to be a response. In this entire speech from Tim Walz, in this entire speech, not once did he talk about people breaking federal immigration laws. Not once did he talk about the rampant fraud that is going on in his community. It's all just, I don't know why the Trump administration is sending ICE agents.
Bite my shiny metal
I
ass.
understand the uniqueness of this moment in this week, following this week, seeing what's happening in the backdrop of a show hearing in D.C. My job is to govern, and my job is to see what the facts are. This happened a couple of hours ago, and we're already pitting American against American. All of you saw a video in your eyes. We have a chaotic situation caused by the largest deployment in American history of.
Can I say this? So he's talking about how we're pitting Americans against each other, right? He's blaming the Trump administration for. Isn't that what he's been doing? Ever since this whole thing began, he has been pitting Americans against Americans. Instead of being a calm voice of reason, you've got Tampon Tim. Oh, I'm so divisive. Tampon Tim has not been a calm voice of reason. He has been divisive. He has been attacking. So again, at no point does he come out and say, don't interfere with a federal investigation or federal ICE agents.
Federal agents into a community with no communication to locals. We had a chaotic situation where an individual is in their car, shot and killed. And so.
All right, there you go.
Failed to mention the car was moving towards an officer that had given repeated lawful commands. Let's just omit that part.
He omitted everything. Everything was the fault of the Trump administration. Everything was the fault of ICE agents. The woman had absolutely no culpability or responsibility whatsoever. There's a woman, a witness, who, here it is. Let me play this real quick. There is a witness who says, I'm probably going to end up playing this a little bit later on, too. It's part of another longer segment. But I want you to listen to this woman who is a witness. Tim Walz wasn't, but this woman was a witness. And she says, she was definitely trying to stop ICE from doing their job.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there.
Mm-hmm. So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, that was her goal.
All right, so there you go. That's what she was doing. She was impeding ICE from doing their job with a 6-year-old, putting herself in danger, even though she had 3 kids, Renee Good, shot and killed, 37 years old. Never, ever should have been in that position in the first place. By the way, her wife, Renee Good's wife, said Renee Good did not want to be there. The wife, the Daily Mail had this whole thing. I've got the audio, but the wife of Renee Good, a lesbian, said that she made Renee Good go out there and take part in these protests against ICE. That's what the wife said. I don't know, but I don't know if you've seen the video. It is horrifying. And this is a true human tragedy. I know that I'm coming out strong, but this is truly a human tragedy. And so you've got the woman's, Renee Good's wife, crying on the sidewalk. She's sitting on the curb. She got a dog with her, and she's crying. And she says, our 6-year-old is at school. there are photographs of the inside of Renee Good's car, and she's got drawings from her 6-year-old inside the car on the passenger seat. A little, I don't know, it's a Barbie doll or whatever it is, little plushy things in the car as well. Clearly kids' toys in the car as well. She never should have put herself in that position. You have kids. You need to be a responsible adult, and if you want to protest something, you do it safely, and you do not impede federal agents. It is simple as that. 5:53, Nashville's Morning News, Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Jay Harper has the news coming up at 6. Jay, what do you got?
Yes, sir, Dan. Testimony continues today in the trial of a former Uvalde, Texas cop, and we'll have more on the U.S. plans for Venezuela. That's all coming up at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
5:58, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. There is a lot of news going on today. We'll continue to cover it all for you. Jay and Sam, I think you'll like this especially. This was a post on X. You ready? I really hope they don't burn down Minneapolis tonight. Just think of how many imaginary children would not be able to go to daycare tomorrow.
Well, and it's still reeling from the first time it was burned down 5 years ago.
There is that, too. So I thought that was funny. All right, coming up, we do have the latest on what is going on with the apparent purchase or military takeover of Greenland. I have that for you. J.D. Vance had a great interview with Jesse Waters. That aired yesterday. I've got a bunch of great audio bites from that coming up for you. We do have more on what happened yesterday in Minnesota. Jacob Fry, I think everybody knows. Does everybody know now what Jacob Fry said, the mayor of the fine city of Minneapolis? I'm going to play that for you. And, you know, when I say that the people on the left, and this is how I started the radio program this morning, when I say that the people on the left, i.e., people like Tim Walz, people like Gavin Newsom, people like Jacob Fry, when I say that they are emboldening people to do what that Renee Good did yesterday, putting their lives in danger to, air quoting, protest, I've got a prime example for you. Coming up, it is Nashville's Morning News, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 6 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories, traffic and weather. They will be on the way here shortly. Testimony set to resume today in the trial of a former Uvalde school police officer accused of endangering students during the 2022 Robb Elementary shooting. Defense lawyers yesterday unsuccessfully argued for a mistrial, saying they were not notified when a witness substantially changed her testimony. That witness will be on the stand today. ABC's Peter Haralambous is covering the trial in Corpus Christi, Texas.
Prosecutors argue that former Uvalde Schools police officer Adrian Gonzalez was one of the first officers to respond to the shooting and was told where the gunman was by a teacher, but he allegedly failed to delay, distract, or impede the gunman. Prosecutor Bill Turner.
When a child is in danger and calls 911, we have the right to expect a response.
Gonzalez has pleaded not guilty and argues he's being scapegoated for a broader failure by law enforcement.
The Trump administration, they're now laying out a three-part plan for Venezuela's future and says it intends to control Venezuelan oil sales indefinitely. Here's ABC's Christiane Cordero.
Secretary of State Marco Rubio says step one is stabilization, which includes the sale of up to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan oil. The White House saying the U.S. will share in the profits. The second phase is recovery, which will open up Venezuela's oil market to American companies and others. And the final phase, transition, which remains unclear.
Taking a look now at the market numbers report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. They're online at beaconcm.com with this morning's money news. Here's Jim Ryan.
The Dow Jones on Wednesday pulled way back from the record it set earlier in the week, giving up 466 points yesterday to close back below 49,000. The S&P lost 0.33%, but the Nasdaq Composite rose slightly on the strength of tech stocks. Among the tech giants, Samsung expects its operating profit to have tripled in the final 3 months of last year to nearly $14 billion. Industry watchers cite surging demand for Samsung's AI-related semiconductors. Job hunters are finding fewer options. New federal numbers show openings in November fell to a 14-month low. But at the same time, the pace of layoffs has also slowed, solidifying what economists are calling a no-hire, no-fire situation. Consumers are getting a break on their grocery bills. The National Milk Producers Federation tells USA Today that oversupply and weakening demand are pushing down the price of dairy products.
Stock futures on this Thursday, the Dow down 163, the S&P down 11, and the NASDAQ, it's down 57. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather on the way. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. Interstate 440 westbound, the off-ramp to West End Avenue at exit 1. It's partially blocked. There is a crash there. And the roadwork delays we had 24 westbound in Laverne around Old Hickory Boulevard to Sam Ridley Parkway. That is starting to clear out just a bit, but still a bit of congestion there. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.606 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I'm really looking forward to speaking to Jonathan Fahey at 6:36 this morning. He is, of course, a highfalutin attorney, in case you didn't know, and I'm going to get his thoughts on all things ICE in Minnesota. That's going to be a great conversation. Again, that is coming up at 6:36. At I think it's 7:36, we have Senator Marsha Blackburn. She is going to join us as well. Lots going on in her world, and she's got a lot that she wants to talk about as well, including what happened yesterday in Minnesota. So one of the things that seemed to trigger folks on the left regarding the killing of Renee Good as she was driving towards that law enforcement officer yesterday in Minneapolis was the fact that Kristi Noem looked at the video and heard the reports from the people on the ground and had the audacity had the audacity to stand up for her ICE agents. This is part of what she said.
It was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing to gather more information, but this goes to show the assaults that our ICE officers and our law enforcement are under every single day. These vehicle rammings are domestic acts of terrorism. We're working with the Department of Justice to prosecute them as such. We will continue to protect our ICE officers and in cooperation with other law enforcement agencies as well.
So you know what I found to be absolutely fascinating is that people were critical of Kristi Noem because of the fact that she was out there and she was, talking about defending her ICE agents. And I don't understand why people had a problem with what she said. In the previous hour, I played you all this audio of Governor Tim Walz, Tampon Tim, and all the things that he said to demonize ICE. So where is the criticism from folks, criticizing Tim Walz for demonizing ICE, but they're all over Kristi Noem for coming to their defense? Now, this is Jacob Fry, the mayor for the city of Minneapolis. This is what he said. Listen.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here.
Right.
Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
So that is Jacob Fry in what some people are calling, and I would agree, a very, it's a demonizing statement. And when I say, and I said a lot in the first hour, I don't want to repeat the whole thing that I said, but it is these kinds of statements that rile people up on the left. And so you have this mom of three, Renee Good, including a 6-year-old. They're calling her a poet. And she shouldn't have been out there. She should not have been out there. As I said previous, the wife of the woman that was shot and killed was sitting with a dog on the side of the road talking about how her wife was shot and killed. This is really sad. I'm going to tell you, I pulled this audio. It's audio only from the Daily Mail.
They just killed that lady right there in that car, y'all. Hey, was you riding with her? Did you call any of your people yet?
We're new here. I don't have.
So you don't got none of her family members or anybody number? Do you know anybody on her Facebook? Alright. Damn. But they just killed her, bro. They just killed her. That lady right there in the car, they pulling out.
Yeah, very, very, very sad. And as Tim Walz said, perfectly avoidable. Very avoidable.
I think part of the reason people are upset with Kristi Noem's addressing of it, there were people trying to offer to render aid. Someone apparently said, claiming to be a doctor, when they swung the doors open and stopped the car after it rammed into the back of the one that was already parked, and they wouldn't let him through. So now they're saying that, well, ICE wouldn't even let them render aid, blah, 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 and all this. It was pretty clear from the side angle video of the door being open and everything that she had already passed. You're not going to render. Yeah. You said it was, what, 3 shots? 3 shots to the face, to the head, I guess. There's not going to be a lot of aid you can render in that situation.
Well, and I saw there's like a 4.5-minute video out there, and there is, I mean, within minutes, there is somebody leaning into the car. I don't know who it was, but it was a civilian. It wasn't an officer. So I don't know about that. That's the first that I've heard about that. But as far as ICE goes, if that is part of the conversation, okay, that's part of the conversation. But for me, I just think that this is a situation that obviously could have been avoided if there was a doctor who wanted to give her aid and the ICE agents wouldn't allow that. Then that's something that does need to be discussed. But here's the deal. They don't know. It's a crime scene, so they don't know if that is actually a doctor. I don't know. I haven't heard that, so maybe you can pull me something on that. But here's the deal. And I went through the video in the 5 o'clock hour, but at least to me, it looks like the officer had no choice. By the way, I played you that audio from Jacob Fry saying that the ICE agents need to get the F out of the out of the city. The Minneapolis Police Department, they've now come out with a statement. And they're not happy with Jacob Fry, and they're not happy with Tim Waltz. The Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association, they have released a statement. Irresponsible, reckless rhetoric from political leaders attacking law enforcement has real and dangerous consequences for officers on the street. When officers are vilified, demonized, or used as political props, it does fuel hostility, emboldens bad actors, and puts lives directly at risk. And that's absolutely right. So what exactly was it that Jacob Fry, the mayor, said again?
To ICE, get the f*** out of Minneapolis.
All right, yeah. Perfectly reasonable comment based on what happened. It's really going to calm emotions. That's really going to calm the situation down, Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry. And there's some people that are saying, and I haven't really looked into this, but there's some people that are saying that he needs to be brought up on some sort of a charge. Will you look that up, Sam? People are saying that Jacob, the mayor, needs to be brought up on some sort of charges, maybe incitement. I don't know. But
incitement would probably fit the bill there.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see if that actually happens. By the way, there are also reports from witnesses on the ground that are saying that she wasn't doing anything. She was just an innocent bystander. The video clearly does tell a different story. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. .6:15, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737-WWTN. I want to get to Greenland, and I want to talk about, there's so many things in the news today. I do understand the majority of the show will be on what is going on in Minnesota. By the way, word is there are activist groups that are already headed or already in Minnesota, just like we saw with George Floyd. So we'll keep an eye on all of that. What is going on with Greenland? Now, last we spoke, yesterday, you had Donald Trump saying, yeah, you know what? All options are on the table, including military options regarding Greenland. I don't think Donald Trump is going to use military action in Greenland, but really good interview, J.D. Vance and Jesse Waters on Fox News, where the vice president spoke about the administration's desire to take over Greenland.
Well, the president is going to make the ultimate determination here, but there's been a lot of bellyaching from Europe, and Europe has failed to contend with the fundamental argument the president and the entire administration has made. Greenland is critical, not just to our national security, but to the world's national security. People don't realize this. The entire missile defense infrastructure is partially dependent on Greenland. If, God forbid, the Russians or the Chinese, not saying they're going to, but if, God forbid, in the future, somebody launched a nuclear missile into our continent, they launched a nuclear missile at Europe, Greenland is a critical part of that missile defense. So you ask yourself, have the Europeans, have the Danes done a proper job of securing Greenland and making sure it can continue to serve as an anchor for world security and missile defense? And the answer is obviously they haven't. They've underinvested in their security. They haven't done a good job of securing that area, that landmass.
Yeah. That is the accusation. So the Europeans, of course, and remember what I said yesterday about the Europeans, I could give two craps about what the Europeans say, but there have been accusations that Denmark has underinvested in Greenland. Europe, of course, denies that. But if that is true, then yeah, we do need to step in. And as I said yesterday, probably far too often. But if we are supposed to be the drivers of NATO financially and militarily, then if we need Greenland, we need Greenland. Now, remember, Donald Trump said this earlier this week, that he would be willing to actually, again, use our military to essentially take Greenland. But again, the reality is that we are looking to buy Greenland from Denmark. Now, Denmark has said Greenland is not for sale, but that's never stopped us from trying anyway. And here's the deal. You know, Donald Trump may give them an offer that they literally cannot refuse. But we do have a military base there, and that military base, there is a lot of radar. There's a lot of radar equipment there. That's how we monitor missiles that may be coming from Europe and China and so forth. And so that's where we have a lot of our defense equipment is there in Greenland. And from what I understand, it's a pretty big air base. I guess we've got some Space Force assets there as well. And so for President Trump and for J.D. Vance, both of them are saying, yeah, you know what? There's plenty of reasons, and it makes sense why United States should have Greenland because, well, let's talk about NATO and who really is in charge of NATO.
Well, that's something that's currently being actively discussed by the president and his national security team. And I would point out that the acquisition of Greenland by the United States is not a new idea. This is something that presidents dating back to the 1800s have said is advantageous for America's national security. The president has been very open and clear with all of you and with the world that he views it in the best interest of the United States to deter Russian and Chinese aggression in the Arctic region. And so that's why his team is currently talking about what a potential purchase would look like.
Yeah, I mean, listen, this is not something that just comes out of the blue. This has been spoken about for a long time. Marco Rubio the other day, he said this is something that Trump has been wanting to do for a long time. People are actually joking that Marco Rubio should be not only in charge of Venezuela, but also eventually in charge of Greenland as well. Makes sense.
Well, that's always been the president's intent from the very beginning. He said it very early on. I mean, this is not new. He talked about it in his first term, and he's not the first U.S. president that has examined or looked at how could we acquire Greenland. There's an interest there. But so I just reminded them of the fact that not only did Truman want to do it, but President Trump's been talking about this since his first term.
Yeah, that is Marco Rubio. So, yeah, Sam said that Marco Rubio needs to be in charge of Greenland, Venezuela, and Minnesota.
Just all the hats.
Just all the hats. You know, how much can one man do? We'll find out with Marco Rubio. 615-737-9986. Got a lot more straight ahead right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Testimony continues today in the trial of a former Uvalde, Texas cop. We'll have the latest on that. And not all Republicans are buying into the Trump administration's plans for Greenland. We'll update you on that as well. That's at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
627 Nashville's Morning News. Ron says on the super text line, Donald Trump wants to buy Greenland so that he can rename it. What do you think he would rename it?
Oh.
Obviously, Trumpland.
It's too on the nose, though.
Orangeland? Because people say he's orange.
Well,
I'm just whatever.
Or how about this? We'll go out of order and call it the 47th state.
We could do that as well. 4702 says if Pam Bondi was worth a crap, she would bring federal charges against the mayor and the governor of Minnesota. They are provoking an insurrection. Trump got impeached for less than what they are saying. I agree with you on Pam Bondi. I mean, and I played the audio in the 5 of Tim Waltz. And by the way, Waltz said a bunch of crap yesterday, too. I should say the day before yesterday as well, leading up to what happened. So we'll have to see where all that goes. I will be speaking to Jonathan Fahey coming up at 6:36. So Sam and I are talking in the break about how much it would cost to try to buy Greenland. So we apparently tried to buy Greenland back in 1946 for $100 million in gold. Now that translates to $1.5 billion today. But you know, the total valuation of Greenland, when you talk about the land and all of those minerals and all of those resources there in Greenland, $2.7 to $4.4 trillion dollars. But what would it take to buy it? I mean, what would it take to buy is a few $100 billion?
So, yeah, the analysis around all of it would say somewhere between a few tens to the low hundreds of billions for a hypothetical.
So if you think so, Trump, I mean, he knows a good deal.
Oh yeah.
So you spend a few $100 billion for Greenland on the high end,
and then you go out and make another deal with another South Korea or something that they're going to invest $300 billion into the U.S.
Right.
Cancel it out.
Yeah, and you've got all of those minerals and all of that stuff.
And then you let the oil companies go in there.
Yep.
And you're not spending taxpayer money on getting that stuff out of there.
Yeah, I mean, let's face it, there are huge reasons why we could use Greenland. From a military standpoint, a strategic standpoint, within NATO standpoint, and also just from a simple financial standpoint, manufacturing standpoint as well, because of the minerals. There is just so many good reasons why we need Greenland. So we'll continue to have that conversation and a whole lot more straight ahead. 6:30 on WTN.
It is 6:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Traffic, weather, they are up next. After a one-day pause in the proceedings, testimony resumes today in the trial of an ex-police officer charged with endangering the lives of children during the 2022 school massacre in Uvalde, Texas. ABC's Jim Ryan says that Adrian Gonzalez is looking at up to 2 years in prison if he is convicted.
On Tuesday, a former Robb Elementary School teacher testified about seeing a man walking toward the building and firing a rifle. Adrian Gonzalez's attorney said the prosecution had withheld that information and moved for a mistrial. On Wednesday, Judge Sid Harrell ruled.
I'm going to deny the motion for mistrial.
Harrell may ask the jury to disregard the former teacher's testimony, but defense lawyer Jeff Goss says,
I think a lot of that testimony, though, is going to be difficult for them to disregard.
In all, the state plans to call about 60 witnesses. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Republican pushback against the president's effort to pressure Denmark, a NATO ally, into handing over Greenland. Here's ABC's Christiane Cordero.
Folks, amateur hour is over.
Senator Tom Tillis attacking Trump aide Stephen Miller for recently claiming that it's obvious Greenland should be part of the U.S.
Turning around and making insane comments about how it is our right to have territory owned by the Kingdom of Denmark.
The U.S. recognized Danish sovereignty over Greenland more than a century ago. And while treaties allow the U.S. to operate military bases there, they do not give the U.S. ownership.
Back here in Tennessee, the state will not participate in the federal summer EBT nutrition program this year after Governor Bill Lee again declined to accept the funds before the deadline. The summer EBT program provides supplemental food benefits to children during the summer months when school meals aren't available. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Tennessee is now one of 11 states that does not participate in the program. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather. They're next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Thank you, Jay. 632, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. I got a big question for you. How much is it worth for you to look better and feel better and more confident? My friends at Contours, they can help you. Now, check this out. Right now, they have extended their Christmas special. So here in January, they've expanded that special with Contours, where they are offering both their Tennessee Famous Belly Buster special and a facial to battle those fine lines, both for just $150. My friends, that is a huge savings from my friends at Contours. Now, both their Belly Buster special and those facial treatments, they are powered by cutting-edge and effective red light technology. Now, this red light therapy can help you lose inches across the middle and the fine lines on your face. And again, this red light technology, it is all the rage these days. Right now, you can get both for just $150. $150 gets you a belly buster treatment and a facial. Again, $150 for the first 10 callers right now. 615-236-9960. 615-236-9960 gets that special price of $150. Find out more about Contours at their website. It is contoursllc.com. Contoursllc.com.
This report. We have a crash now, I-24 westbound near exit 53. That's the 440 junction. Also an injury crash, Dickerson Pike at Doverside Drive, as well as another wreck, Old Hickory Boulevard, just north of Chute Lane. And we're seeing quite a bit of congestion in the normal location, that 6524 junction up north of the city. And things are kind of slowing down on 24 westbound around Bell Road. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes. Every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.637, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Hey, Jay.
Yes, sir.
I owe Jonathan Fahey an apology.
Uh-oh, what'd you do?
You know what? We originally scheduled for 6:36, but Sam just called him, and he says, I can't talk right now. I'm on with Maria Bartiromo.
You got preempted.
I got preempted But in fairness to Jonathan Fahey, we scheduled, and then there was a bigger name on the other line.
Yeah, you got bumped.
And I got bumped. So he's going to join us actually a little, which is fine, because I got all kinds of stuff. But he's going to join us at 8:06 here on Nashville's Morning News. Yeah, he's on. Was he actually on TV at the time that you made that you called in?
This is literally what he told me.
Are you kidding me?
I'm like, I'm so sorry. I was completely lied to about when I was supposed to call you.
You know what? Accidents happen. And you know what? If you're going to be on with Maria Bartiromo, put your phone on Do Not Disturb.
Well, you just can't trust a guy with a red nose.
All right, Jay. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate it, man. All right, but you know what? I've got a lot of good stuff, actually. I was really impressed with J.D. Vance and this interview with Fox News, and I'm going to get into some of this. But real quickly, so now I'm tap dancing a little bit, only because I thought that I was going to have Jonathan Fahey on. But real quick, so we have all of this insanity going on where people, I just heard, who was that was screaming, Jay, about Trump taking over Greenland? Who was that?
It was some congressman. There's a couple of congressmen that are throwing a fit. I, quite frankly, wasn't paying attention.
Okay, well, you read it. I thought you might know who it was, but obviously not, and that's fine. So it was somebody freaking out about Donald Trump wanting to take over Greenland. Do you know what I wonder? Did people lose their ever-loving minds when we bought Hawaii and Alaska?
Well,
like that, like
we didn't buy Hawaii.
How did we get Hawaii? I don't even know.
We kind of just took it over.
All right. Well, then there's a precedent that's been set. We took Hawaii, so it's fine.
A group of American businessmen and sugar planters overthrew the Hawaiian monarchy in 1893 with a little U.S. military support, deposing Queen Liliuokalani. This established a provisional government and then the Republic of Hawaii.
Listen, it was strategically important for us to have Hawaii.
Now we got dope beach resorts.
That's exactly right. See, it was all worth it.
You know, I've been hearing all of the Danish dignitaries and stuff kind of throwing a fit about the prospect, but I haven't seen what the actual citizenry of Greenland, what do they think about the prospect?
There was some polling done, and supposedly 85% of Greenlanders don't want to be under American rule. So, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I like it's like one poll, and I have no idea if the poll was done by some anti-American outfit or whatever. So I don't know. And how much did we pay for Alaska?
So this is what's crazy. If the Hawaii story wasn't crazy enough, we bought it from Russia in 1867 for $7.2 million, about 2 cents per acre. Man, did the Russians get fleeced on that?
Boy, they got hosed.
In today's money, that's still only like 150 something million.
So the point is that there is precedent either way. According to Sam, who looked it up during the break, we apparently just absconded with Hawaii. What year was that when we absconded with Hawaii?
1893, starting a Republic of Hawaii. And 1898.
Does it say why we took Hawaii? Like, I suppose I should remember
they
this
led
from
with
8th grade history.
They led with the businessmen and sugar planters, so they probably discovered pineapples and were like, oh my gosh.
It's exactly right. Pineapples and beach resorts. So my point is, I don't know why people are freaking out so much about this. It doesn't make any sense to me whatsoever why this is such a, I mean, it's worth a discussion. That's all I'm saying. Like, just to have a discussion. I mean, Jay was playing audio from somebody and screaming at the top of his lungs. And you've got the usual Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene. You know, I love the headlines where it's like, oh, there's a Republican revolt over Donald Trump doing whatever it is, whether it is what's going on in Minnesota or what's going on with Greenland or Venezuela. And they always have these headlines about Republicans bucking Donald Trump. I'm sorry, but if it's Thomas Massey and Marjorie Taylor Greene, shut up. They don't like anything that Donald Trump is doing. So that's, and that was the Daily Mail that did that, who actually, they're not usually, that sort of lopsided in their headlines, but whatever,
You know who hasn't made any kind of public commentary known?
Who's that?
Canada. They're never going to be upset about more U.S. protection around their areas.
Yeah, that's true. That's true, isn't it? All right, let's go back to this J.D. Vance. And I'm actually, to be honest, I'm kind of happy that Jonathan Fahey was pushed back to the 8 o'clock because there is some great news regarding J.D. Vance and the midterm elections. I don't have the audio right now on me, but CNN, this was actually an older audio bite that I played a few days ago where the Democrats they're not polling well. The Democrats are simply put not polling well. And so the question was asked of J.D. Vance, how worried are you about the midterm elections? And what can you say to the American people about the midterm elections where it's like, okay, you got to vote for Democrats or Republicans. What's it going to be? And listen to what J.D. said.
Absolutely. But the people who are going to do that work is the Trump administration, is the President of the United States, who is solving the Democrats' affordability crisis. You don't give power back to the very people who set the house on fire. You give more power to the person who put the fire out.
If the Democrats do win the midterms, is Trump getting impeached again?
I'm sure he'll get impeached. Look, they have nothing to actually run on or govern on. Their entire obsessive focus of that party is they hate Donald Trump. So if they ever get power, are they going to lower Americans' taxes? No. Are they going to make your life more affordable? No. Are they going to solve the crime crisis? No. What they're going to do is they're going to spend all their time and all of your money trying to get Donald Trump. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's ridiculous that's what they're running on. But the American people are going to make this determination. I think the American people should vote for the people who want to make their life more affordable and want to make their neighborhoods safer. That's what we're trying to deliver every single day.
I mean, doesn't that make sense? All the Democrats ever seem to do anymore is scream. I mean, all that happened yesterday in Minnesota. And if you're just joining us, I've been talking about that all morning long, taking a bit of a detour now. But, I mean, who's responsible for what happened in Minnesota yesterday? The shooting of this Renee Good. Is it ICE? No, it's not ICE. They were just trying to do their job. The Democrats, namely Tim Walz, Gavin Newsom, and the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Frey, they are the ones that have been ginning up all of this anger and outrage and just everything they do, the Democrats, everything they do is grievance politics. And they're always ticked off. They're always screaming about something. And so when you do that, you're not solving any problems. You're actually making the problems worse. And so I love what J.D. Vance says. You know, the Democrats, if they get into office, just staying with how emotional the Democrats are, they'll focus on one thing, staying with the arsonist narrative. They're going to try to set the house on fire, literally. They'll try to burn the house down. They don't want to, and they won't do anything to help you, your kids, or your parents. They'll just focus on stopping everything that Donald Trump is trying to do. Remember, Trump's tax breaks, right? Remember, Trump's no tax on tips, no tax on overtime and all that. They'll try to claw all of that back because that's what the Democrats do. Stock market this week closed at record highs. 401ks are looking really good. 60% of working Americans are invested in 401ks. So if you've got one, more than likely it's up. You got inflation that's going down. Some prices are going down. GDP is up, beating expectations. Gas prices are going down, lowest in years, right? So the Democrats are reflexively against all of that. And that's why when J.D. Vance says, the Democrats will do nothing but fight Donald Trump at every turn. And yes, they'll try to impeach him as well. We don't need that for 2 years. We are making incredible progress. And I personally believe that progress does need to continue. The only way to have that progress continue is if we have the House post-midterm elections, Republicans, and if we have the Senate, obviously. And we'll have to wait and ultimately see what happens. But, you know, JD said a lot of really good things. I've got a little bit more straight ahead. 6:46, time to check the roads on WTN.
Woodbine, 24 westbound at the off-ramp to westbound 440. There's an accident moved to the shoulder. Bellshire, Dickerson Pike, a crash at Doverside Drive. Emergency crews on the scene. And
Kidnapped Maduro.
Sorry. We'll get to the kidnapping of Maduro coming up. Today, cloudy and warm with a high near 70 today. It's Super Talk, 99.7 WTN. So, I was talking about the very emotional Democrats, right? So, as Jesse Waters says in this interview with J.D. Vance, Jasmine Crockett actually is out there saying, and this is not just unique to Jasmine Crockett, the left is saying that the United States kidnapped, perhaps even disappeared, Nicolas Maduro, the former, I guess, leader of Venezuela. And J.D. Vance says, you know what? We had good reason to arrest him.
Jasmine Crockett said you guys kidnapped Maduro.
We engaged in a law enforcement action. We had a legitimate indictment for Maduro for narco-terrorism, for weapons smuggling and weapons trafficking, and we went in with the best military in the world. We got our guy. He's going to stand trial. By the way, he's given the full due process rights that are entitled to anybody who's in the United States. I think he's going to go away. He's going to be found guilty. That's not a kidnapping. That's a law enforcement operation. And Jasmine Crockett, of all people, she has the least amount of room to talk on this stuff. She doesn't know what she's talking about. As the president said, you couldn't have a worse spokesperson, a person with less knowledge about world affairs. It's telling that she's the person speaking for the Democrats on this issue.
How do you win the war on drugs if Americans love cocaine?
That's the one big pushback I've gotten is when I criticize the Venezuelans for trafficking cocaine. You had a lot of people say, we don't like fentanyl, but some people do like cocaine. Unfortunately, cocaine is a very bad drug. And importantly, Jesse, it is a major profit center for the Venezuelan cartels.
Right. And so you want to obviously fight the cartels. You know what? And I've said this 1,000 times. I absolutely love that Jasmine Crockett is the main spokesperson for the main spokesperson for the Democrats these days. I think she is perfect for us. And also, as you know, she's running for the Senate. Did you see, I'm going to try to get this in the 7 o'clock hour. Did you see the epic meltdown that AOC had screaming about how Jesse Waters sexualized her? Did you see that?
No.
Oh, my gosh.
Everybody wants to date her, though.
This is, I had forgotten it, but what is with her? She is like one of Washington, D.C.'s, in a city full of narcissists, she is the biggest narcissist ever. She went nuts, and I don't have time to, you know what? Okay, I got a little time. I'm going to go to the break, and then coming back from the break, I'm going to do real quickly AOC going bat crap crazy over Jesse Waters, air quoting, sexualizing AOC. She lost her very small, very tiny, ever-loving mind. That is straight ahead, 6:50 on Super Talk 99.7. WTN. Jay Harper has the news coming up at 7. Jay.
Yes, sir, Dan. We'll have more on the Trump administration's plans regarding the Venezuelan government. What's he up to? Also, there are newly announced dietary guidelines, and they include a change on alcohol. We'll get into that.
Drink more Bloody Marys.
Okay.
Drink more Dangrias.
Well, see that, and hence the red nose result from all of that. Anyway, that all comes up at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much. For folks who missed the 5 o'clock hour, I had a listener tell me, Dan, if you have some homegrown honey, your red nose will go away. And for whatever reason, in the last couple of days, my wife and a listener both have now said that I had a red nose. I didn't know this, but I've had a red nose for like years, and I never knew. So hence the constant jokes about yours truly having a red nose. It is 6:51 on Super Talk. DT McCall's. Now, this is a great Tennessee company. They are here for their fellow Tennesseans with great prices, great selection, and value as well. I've been telling you for years about DT McCall's. They've been helping people out for, count them, 4 generations. And if you need it, they've got it at DT McCall's. Indoor furniture. If you've got a room to fill, go to DT McCall's. I just bought a terrific refrigerator from DT McCall's. I've had it for, I think, probably a couple of months now. I've got a number of different appliances from DT McCall's in my home. If it plugs in, they've got it. And they've always got specials going on to save you money. I was a customer before I was an endorser with DT McCall's. Anytime something breaks in my house, I go to dtmccalls.com. They've always got great specials on all the best brands of appliances and furniture. Right there, front page of their website. Check it out again, dtmccalls.com. They've been at it for over 100 years with the focus on customer service. And if you buy it, they're going to deliver it for free and haul away the old stuff. They've got 5 locations across Middle Tennessee. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, and Franklin, always online, dtmccalls.com.
This report is sponsored.
.656, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Coming up after the news at 7. You know, I love Jonathan Turley. He's got some very wise words for the mayor of Minneapolis, Jacob Fry. Details straight ahead on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So AOC lost her ever-loving mind. This was, I guess, earlier this week, maybe last night, where she just went off on Jesse Waters for sexualizing her. Listen.
Appropriations.
That's nice.
Would you join him?
He accused me of, he has sexualized me on his show. He has sexually harassed me on his show. He has engaged in horrific, sexually exploitative
That's not true, Congresswoman.
It is true. It is true because he accused me of wanting to quote unquote sleep with Stephen Miller. So why don't you tell me what you think is acceptable to tell a woman? Thank you.
And off she goes.
Why don't you tell me your thoughts, but I'm going to walk away before you can answer.
So let's go to the video and find out what prompted such a big response from AOC. This is Jesse Waters. This is Jesse Waters talking about AOC and her thoughts and criticisms of Stephen Miller.
Do you think that MAGA men are insulted by AOC?
No, I think AOC wants to sleep with Miller. It is so obvious, and I'm sorry, you can't have him. Miller is the best. I know him well socially, and the man is not overcompensating. Dana, I know when people are overcompensating. I know people at this table who are overcompensating.
They immediately, by the way, go to a shot of Greg Gutfeld. I love the five.
That person is me. He is a policy savant. I mean, this guy is confident. He battles CNN with grace and with class, and he provides wise counsel to the President of the United States.
So apparently the graphic says AOC short shames Stephen Miller. Is he short?
I think he's 5'11".
That's not short.
5'10", somewhere like that. No.
How tall is he? Look it up. Because I'm reasonably certain that Stephen Miller is not short. I mean, I'm short at 5'5", but
5'10".
Yeah. So I don't know why AOC would short shame Stephen Miller, but you know what?
No one's asking him to be a jockey at the Kentucky Derby.
No, but whatever. So here's the thing. That's what I should have done. Learned how to race horses. Whatever. Moving right along. Yeah, so AOC, is that, so you just heard the comment. I mean, what is up with that fury?
If she has a problem with people sexualizing her and making very lewd, disgusting comments about her, she needs to stay off of Reddit and the rest of the internet.
Oh, does she?
Oh, the liberal soy boys on the left are obsessed.
Oh, really? With AOC?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, does she, I mean, does she put stuff on Reddit that would be considered?
No, but people use their creative abilities in Adobe to.
Oh, whatever. All right. Well, moving right along. I would say that she was way overreacting in her reaction to that silly little comment from one Jesse Waters. All right, coming up, we're going to do a full reset of what is going on and what has happened in Minneapolis. That story for you and a whole lot more straight ahead. Senator Marsha Blackburn, by the way, coming up at 7:36. Next, right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 7 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We'll get an updated traffic report and a weather forecast here momentarily. Following the U.S. capture of Nicolas Maduro in Venezuela, President Trump telling the New York Times that the interim Venezuelan government is, quote, giving us everything we feel is necessary. Trump said he made no commitments about when elections will be held in Venezuela. ABC's Mary Bruce has more.
President Trump saying in a new interview with the New York Times he expects the U.S. will be running Venezuela and extracting from its vast oil reserves for years. Trump insisting we will rebuild in a very profitable way, adding we're going to be using oil and we're going to be taking oil. We're getting oil prices down and we're going to be giving money to Venezuela, which they desperately need.
Newly announced dietary guidelines include a change in the guidance on booze. Previously, 2 or fewer drinks per day were advised for men and less for women. Now there's no set amount listed in the guidelines announced by President Trump's health secretary. Here's ABC's Andrea Fujii.
The Trump administration has flipped the food pyramid, prioritizing protein and healthy fats and minimizing grains while urging Americans to avoid sugar and highly processed food. Changes Health Secretary Robert Kennedy says will make America healthy again.
We are ending the war on saturated fats.
It's a move that reverses decades of nutritional precedent. Previous recommendations suggested avoiding full-fat foods. Now the guidelines endorse high-fat foods like red meat, whole milk, and cheese, and using olive oil, beef tallow, and butter as cooking oils.
Back here in Music City, 2 Nashville area businesses were targeted in early morning smash and grab burglaries, leaving both storefronts severely damaged. According to Metro Police, at about 2 in the morning yesterday, 4 suspects in a stolen Kia Soul vehicle drove into Hibbett Sports on Mountain View Road in Antioch. They swiped shoes and clothing out of there. And then about a half an hour later, the same vehicle crashed into the front of the wireless zone on Nolansville Pike. Surveillance video of the burglary showed the suspects entering the store and destroying display cases and filling bags with merchandise. The suspects were described by Metro Police as 4 possibly younger Hispanic men in dark clothing who were driving that stolen brown Kia Soul vehicle. As of yet, no arrests have been made. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
We've dreaded this moment.
As we look at your traffic situation here at 5 minutes past 7, an injury crash, Dickerson Pike at Doverside Drive. Also, the off-ramp is partially blocked, 24 westbound. The off-ramp over to I-440, that's at exit 53. We have a crash in that location. Traffic every 10 minutes. Yep, we've got it every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.706 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. CNN has this headline, and they're talking about new surveillance video. Shows what happened in the moments before the fatal ICE shooting. So you know what they have found? I can't believe they actually said this. They show that Renee Good's SUV was in the street parked sideways, blocking the road for at least 3 minutes. But then CNN says, we don't know why she was blocking the road, but she was. Are you kidding me? You know why Renee Good was blocking the road, because she was trying to impede ICE from doing their job. And so one of the things, and I had an earlier headline from CNN, outrage after ICE shoots and kills woman. Well, the outrage, there's a couple of different reasons to be outraged. My outrage is the fact that I agree, man, this was absolutely preventable. Why was she out on the road? Why are the Democrats and the Democrat politicians like Jacob Fry, the mayor of Minneapolis, and the governor, Tim Walz, and people like Gavin Newsom and AOC and people like that, why are they emboldening people to get in their cars and try to prevent ICE from doing their job? And people are screaming, oh, there's going to be, Renee Good had a 6-year-old. There's going to be a 6-year-old that's orphaned now. Well, let me tell you something, friends. If I've got a 6-year-old or an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old, if I've got children that I care about, I'm not going to put myself in a position where it could theoretically or realistically put me in a dangerous position. And that is exactly what Renee Good did. Now, if you go to my X feed at Dan Manda Show, I'm assuming all of you have already seen the video. If you want to see multiple views of the video, knock yourself out. It is on my X feed at Dan Manda Show. But it is clear that number of things. She was in her vehicle. It is sideways on the road, and she is impeding traffic, i.e. ICE. An ICE officer walks up to the vehicle and tells her to get out of the car. Now, I'm assuming that she had been a pain in the butt for quite some time, throughout the day with ICE, because apparently, according to one witness, I played you the audio earlier, a witness says, yeah, she and other cars, they were purposely impeding ICE from driving around the city. So ICE was already good and ticked off because of what they were doing. And so, she gets in front of them and they finally say, get out of the car. And she refuses to get out of the car. As a matter of fact, she starts driving towards another ICE agent. And there's angles that show that the ICE agent was actually bumped by the car. And then the shots rang out and she ultimately ended up dead. Incredibly sad. For a number of different reasons. Tim Walz, there's audio out there, I played it earlier. Tim Walz, oh, this was so preventable. You're darn right it was preventable. She shouldn't have put herself in that position. And at least to me, it was clearly self-defense. But this is falling along political lines. If you're a supporter of ICE and you're a supporter of Donald Trump, then you claim that it was self-defense. I believe that it was self-defense. I'm a huge supporter of ICE and their mission. I'm a huge supporter of Donald Trump. If you're anti-Trump, orange man bad, and we should fill our nation with as many illegal aliens as possible, well, then you think that it was murder. Now, the reality is, if you look very closely at the tape, you will see that she was trying to make a hard sort of right turn, if you will. But she's already driving towards the police officer, and he obviously was fixated on the person driving a 2-ton vehicle or however much it weighed right at him. And so he did what he had to do to defend himself. And now we've got all of these activist groups and these pro-Palestinian groups that are heading towards Minnesota if they're not already there. So we may end up seeing, we had burning flags overnight, and, we didn't see any widespread rioting or vandalism. Maybe we saw a little bit of vandalism. I don't know.
They haven't been bussed in yet.
That's what I was going to say. They haven't been bussed in yet. So they're probably flying in this morning. And so, It is Thursday, so we've got Thursday night, Friday night, and then the weekend.
Yeah.
Now, Tim Walz is out there. He's calling in the National Guard. I want to play some audio. This is the Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey.
We've dreaded this moment since the early stages of this ICE presence in Minneapolis. Not only is this a concern that we've had internally, we've been talking about it. They are not here to cause safety in this city. What they are doing is not to provide safety in America. What they are doing is causing chaos and distrust. They're ripping families apart. They're sowing chaos on our streets. And in this case, quite literally killing people.
And one of the things that he said, I can't play the audio because it's got a curse word in it, but one of the things that he said is that ICE agents are saying it was self-defense, and Jacob Frey says that is BS. You got to be careful. Jonathan Turley is actually out there, and he is saying that he better be careful. Jacob Frey better be careful. This is the headline. Jonathan Turley explains why Mayor Jacob Frey might want to STFU about accusing ICE of murder, because he could ultimately end up face some sort of legal repercussions himself. Here's what's going to happen, is that whether it is Tim Walz or whether it is Greg Frey or whether it is Gavin Newsom, AOC, all the usual suspects, the more that they try to gin up people, the worse it's going to be. Not for them. They love the attention. They love the clicks, and they thrive on divisive grievance politics. But when you start talking about the people that suffer the consequences, you know, people like Renee Good, they ultimately end up paying the price because they make the decision to go out and use their vehicle to try to stop ICE. I love what Jonathan Turley said. This is talking about Jacob Frey, this is the type of rhetoric that fuels the rage. Perhaps, he says, wait for the investigation. And that's the point. The point is that Jacob Frey is spouting off when he doesn't know all the facts and he doesn't know everything that has transpired. Now, obviously, everybody was looking at this video. Everybody saw the video. And it depends, I believe, on your, where you stand politically, how you interpret that video. But wait till you hear what Scott Jennings had to say over on CNN. It is classic and it is spot on. Details straight ahead, 7:15. Time to check the roads on WTN.
No problems on 65 or 40, no unusual delays on 840. I'm Christy O'Brien.
Very good. As far as your weather today, eventually we're going to get up to 70 degrees, cloudy and warm, and yes, a high of 70. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. By the way, talking about Jacob Frey and his very divisive commentary.
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis. We do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
So my question would be this. Is there any culpability of these politicians for trying to, as I've been saying, gin up all of this anger and all of this hatred? You see, I believe that is what they are trying to do. Democrats thrive on division. Democrats thrive on chaos. Democrats thrive on just this kind of environment because now Renee Good is a victim. And she gets to be treated as a victim, even though it was her that put herself in this position, driving a vehicle directly at an ICE officer who then had to defend himself. But Scott Jennings had a great point. It's one that I did make earlier, where all of this rhetoric for people on the left, when did it just become okay that your right to protest, and I'm air quoting, your right to protest was actually taking your vehicle, turned into taking your vehicle and blocking ICE agents and try to impede ICE agents from doing their job. Your right to protest is you with a sign over there on the sidewalk, whatever. Your right to protest does not include you in a caravan of people trying to stop ICE agents or throwing rocks and bricks and all kinds of other things at ICE agents. That is not part of your, right to free speech and your right to protest.
But it strikes me that we are undergoing an epidemic of political vigilantism right now. Why are people showing up in vehicles, in convoys, not just in Minneapolis, but all over the country in an effort to obstruct lawful federal law enforcement activities?
Yep.
This is not an isolated incident. We have had hundreds of car rammings against ICE agents all over the country. According to DHS, this lady in this car today, along with other vehicles, had been tracking ICE agents around. Why are people believing that they can drive their car into a federal law enforcement situation and that is an appropriate thing to do? I understand they don't like the fact that these agents are enforcing existing immigration law, but that's not how we change laws in this country. If you don't like a law, you talk to the politicians. You don't drive your car into the middle of a building or a law enforcement situation that's being occupied by the people who are simply there to enforce the law. If I don't like how much the IRS is charging me in taxes, I don't drive my car into the Treasury Department, try to run somebody over. I call my congressman.
Exactly.
Political vigilantism is being encouraged by Democratic officials like the Lieutenant Governor of Minnesota, Peggy Flanagan, who earlier this year told people to, quote, put your bodies on the line, and Tim Walz calling these guys Gestapo all year. What do you think happens when you radicalize a base of people about?
Yeah, listen, he's absolutely right. And I will remind you what Jacob Fry said yesterday when he said
To ICE, get the out of Minneapolis.
He thinks
we do not want you here. Your stated reason for being in this city is to create some kind of safety, and you are doing exactly the opposite.
So we're just waiting for the next shoe to drop because, as I said, you've got all of these, and this was from, I believe, the Wall Street Journal, where they start talking about all of these groups that are going to be coming into, if they're not already there, Minneapolis. Now, witnesses have claimed that Good and her wife were acting as legal observers and filming the protest when she was just innocently shot 3 times in the face at a protest in Minneapolis on Wednesday. Her actions were not innocent, as we've been documenting since, I'm assuming, all day yesterday. She was in the way of an ICE vehicle, driving right towards an ICE officer. I read you earlier, the Minnesota Police and Peace Officers Association has released a statement. Irresponsible, reckless rhetoric from political leaders attacking law enforcement has real and dangerous consequences for officers on the street. When officers are vilified, demonized, or used as political props, it does indeed fuel hostility, emboldens bad actors, and does put lives directly at risk. And that is most certainly true. And I'm going to play this piece of audio yet again because I do believe that it is incredibly important, because there's people that are saying, oh, ICE overreacted or whatever it is. Well, there's this witness who says that ICE was impeded by the actions of Renee Good and others.
They clearly wanted her out of there because she was the main car leading the protest, is my understanding. I talked to another guy who was driving behind her, but she was very successful in blocking traffic. She was doing what she was set out to do, and so they wanted to get her the hell out of there. Yeah.
So it looked like she was impeding ICE vehicles.
Definitely, yeah. Okay. That was her goal.
And you know what? And CNN, I can't get over this story. Yeah, she was, blocking traffic with her SUV for 3 minutes. We don't know why she was in the middle of the road. Lord have mercy. By the way, from Wall Street Journal. Almost immediately, various groups with causes as diverse as socialism, communism, climate change, Palestinian rights, and the Democratic Party launched what seemed to be a coordinated protest online and in American streets using similar language. The effort by left-wing groups with no obvious shared cause echoed protests over the weekend when many of the same groups sprang into action in the hours following the U.S. capture of Venezuelan dictator Nicolas Maduro. It is the same network of people that have thousands of Americans blocking the streets, waving communist and terrorist flags, attacking law enforcement and innocents, and burning the American flag, which we have seen, says Brandy Shafitsky, director of the Education and National Security Program at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, saying they are stoking the grievance industry that they built. And that is exactly what the Democrats do. It is all about the grievance industry, and it is my opinion that things are actually going pretty well here in America. The economy is rebounding. Crime is dropping because of Donald Trump and what he's doing in places like Washington, D.C. and Memphis. You have, as I said, the economy is getting better. More people are joining the military. There's a lot of really good things that Donald Trump is doing. So what do the Democrats have to do? They need to stoke that grievance industry so that they can continue to cultivate this party of victim mentality so that they can see the chaos in the streets, because that is the only way the Democrats are able to thrive these days, is if there is chaos in the streets. So this is not an accident. And if you heard Jacob Fry, if you heard Tim Waltz, if you heard people online yesterday, that is all that they were doing, is they were accusing ICE and Donald Trump and Tom Homan of murder. There's a lot more straight ahead. By the way, 724, we do have Senator Marsha Blackburn. She's going to be joining us at 736. And we've got the news at 730 with Jay Harper. Jay.
Yeah, Dan, as you've been talking about here this morning, tensions indeed running high in the wake of the shooting involving the ICE agents up in Minneapolis. Also, the president now giving his latest and perhaps new thoughts on Venezuela. That's all coming up at 7:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Jay. Dan Mandis here for King and Associates. Listen, if you want to save money on insurance, check out my friends at King and Associates Insurance. Now, many of my listeners have reached out and let me know that they have been able to save and save big with King and Associates Insurance. Now, if you're looking to save money in 2026, call these folks. One guy that I know, his 16-year-old daughter got into a car accident. They still saved him thousands of dollars when the time came for new insurance. Because at King and Associates Insurance, they do understand that life does happen. And as independent agents, they can find you the best deal for your family. They're going to weed out the non-competitive companies and find the best options for you, and keeping the communication flawless. Now, here's the deal. How do they save you so much money? Well, what they do at King & Associates is they know it's not only relationships with the best companies around, but also bundling home and auto. King & Associates will fight for the best deal possible. By the way, that coworker I was telling you about, he figured out that his old insurance agent was overcharging him for years. Don't let that happen to you. Make the switch to King & Associates. Call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out at 615-321-8121, 615-321-8121, tkinginsurance.com. 727, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986. I want to tell you about my friends at Loan Pronto. Listen, make 2026 the year that you get yourself in a better financial position. The best financial move you can make right now. How about lowering your mortgage rate to 4.99% fixed APR? Now, that is the lowest rate in years, and Loan Pronto, they can do it for you. How about getting up to $500,000 out of your home's equity in the process? And again, you can do this right now by calling Loan Pronto. Now, their rapid equity loan from Loan Pronto, you can get a ton of cash, pay off all those high-interest credit cards, and skip up to 2 house payments as well. One homeowner just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours, wiped out their credit cards and a couple of car loans as well, and saved $2,100 a month. Now, don't wait. No hard credit pull up front, and you probably won't even need an appraisal. They make it easy at Loan Pronto. Just fast, easy cash from your home's equity. Act right now. Call them. Tell them I told you to reach out at 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780. Find them online anytime. It is loanpronto.com, and see how much money you can get today with Loan Pronto. That website again, loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, APR for well-qualified buyers. Visit nmlsconsumeraccess.org.
It is coming up on 7:31. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Traffic and weather are next. The nation on edge after the deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis, in which officials say a woman threatened agents with her vehicle yesterday. ABC's national correspondent Alex Perez, he's at the scene.
Demonstrators taking to the streets after the shooting. Some confronting ICE agents, throwing snowballs, agents responding with pepper spray and tear gas. That tense ordeal happening only about a mile from where a former Minneapolis police officer was convicted of murdering George Floyd in May of 2020, which ignited nationwide protests against police brutality.
Now, a new interview has surfaced with President Trump where he says the U.S. will be running Venezuela and extracting oil from its reserves for years. following the U.S. capture of ousted President Nicolas Maduro. Trump telling the New York Times, quote, "We're getting oil prices down and we're going to be giving money to Venezuela, which they desperately need." Here's more now from ABC's Mary Bruce.
President Trump tells the Times the interim government of loyalists to captured leader Nicolas Maduro is, quote, "giving us everything we feel is necessary." And he made no commitments about when elections will be held in Venezuela.
Back here in Tennessee, the state will not participate in the federal summer EBT nutrition program this year after Governor Bill Lee again declined to accept the funds before the deadline. The summer EBT program provides supplemental food benefits to kids during summer months when the school meals aren't available. According to the U.S. Department of Agriculture, Tennessee is now one of 11 states that does not participate in the program. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Thank you, Jay. 7:33 on Super Talk 99.7. Dan Mandis here. You know, my store for all things two-way is the Glock store. Over the holidays, my friends and family were talking about the new Gen 6. Now, they are out, and they are amazing. Now, they've got the new optic system, the RTF6 texturing, and the flat face trigger, among other things. Really optimized, though, to make you a better shooter. It is all the rage among two-way. And the Glock store wants to make sure that you can get one. Now, you can pre-order yours right now by going to the Glock store. They've already received their first shipments of Gen 6 G17s, 19s, and 45. They literally sold out in, a day. So, yes, pre-ordering is the way to go. And the Glock store, again, wants to make it happen. So head on over to the Glock store, check out your options at the rental counter. You can even shoot one if you want. You can try it out. The new Gen 6s, I am told they are amazing. Now, when you mention my name, you go to the Glock store, you pre-order your Gen 6, you mention my name, and you are going to get an extra magazine when you pick it up at the Glock store. Now, this is a limited time offer. Mention my name, get an extra magazine. Limited time offer, and only from the Glock store, minutes from the airport, and worth the drive from anywhere.
Oh, boy, we've got another problem on 840. Not to the degree we had yesterday, thank goodness, but there is a crash. 840, this one is westbound, just past the Murfreesboro Road overpass in Williamson County. And there are parts of Williamson County that are reporting some pretty dense fog. So dealing with that again here this morning. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I want to say good morning to Senator Marsha Blackburn joining us live on WTN. Senator, always great to have you on. I know our time is limited. Let's talk about the topic that everybody is talking about, of course, the shooting yesterday in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I know you have some thoughts. We'll talk a little bit more about what you want to do with the situation regarding the Somalian fraudsters. You're active in that situation. Going to talk about that, but just give me your first blush on the shooting yesterday in Minnesota.
And that shooting is very tragic. We all know that any loss of life is tragic. And we also know that the officer watched this individual weaponize their car and then come toward the officers. That officer made that decision. He feared for his life and that of his fellow officers. And so he moved forward. And Secretary Noem has supported him, so is the president. And I know there will be a full investigation, but truly a tragic situation. And I think it's important to realize that the ICE officers are there because Tim Walz and the mayor of Minneapolis are not working with them. And, of course, taking into federal custody these individuals with orders of deportation are individuals that have indictments of fraud against them. It would be much safer if they would work with them, if some of these apprehensions took place within the confines of the law enforcement facilities, but in Minneapolis, they are not doing that.
Senator, I thought it was interesting. So Tim Walz, I played some audio earlier, where he is talking about how there's no coordination with the federal government and ICE. And I thought that was interesting because it's like he's trying to blame the Trump administration for not coordinating with them when the reality is that they are not coordinating with ICE. It's like the locals in Minneapolis, whether it's Jacob Fry or Tim Walz or whoever, they are intentionally not accepting a coordination from ICE because we know that here in Tennessee, in Memphis, there's been amazing coordination between federal authorities and local authorities. And look how well Memphis has turned out.
Well, that's exactly right. And many people look at Memphis as the model for how you move forward. A police chief, a mayor, local officials that are working with the Tennessee Highway Patrol, the TBI, the National Guard, and with the 20-plus federal agencies that are on the ground helping to apprehend these criminals. They've made about 5,000 arrests. They've taken 800 illegal firearms off the street. They've recovered about 500 stolen vehicles. They've recovered 133 missing children. And it has happened because of that coordination, and I'm very grateful for the way Memphis has moved forward. In Minneapolis, they will not work with them, and you have ICE agents who are there doing their job. And because of that, they're having to go into these communities and apprehend these individuals that have broken the law. And you see this tragic situation that occurred yesterday. And I look at the fact that in Memphis, yesterday was the day 100, Dan, of what has taken place, this Memphis Safe Task Force. It marked day 100. Every single day, I monitor what is happening there. Day 100, we have cut the crime rate in half in Memphis, Tennessee. And these individuals, because of our wonderful U.S. attorney there, Michael Donovan, and the surged attorneys out of DOJ and ICE and different agencies so that we can get these criminals into court and seek these convictions, and many of these individuals will end up being locked up in the federal prison. You remove these gang leaders, these drug dealers, these pedophiles, these sex traffickers, and you clean up these communities when you remove these individuals with ill intent.
Senator Marsha Blackburn is joining us on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As far as the fraud that is going on in Minnesota, I know that you've, obviously been watching this because you are pushing for new legislation that would apparently modify an existing decades-old law that ultimately would lead to the denaturalization and deportation of some of these Somalis that have been committing this fraud.
Yes, and of course, as the fraud story broke in Minnesota and you saw how wide and deep it was, and then you started to hear about it in other states, and in Mississippi, their trial on fraud, very similar fraud, lower dollar amounts, actually started this week. We started looking at how it would affect people that had been naturalized citizens or were in the country on visas, as green cards, legal status. And what we found was that the Nationality and Immigration Act needed to be tightened up because there were mentions of fraud in different places, but there was nothing that made it explicit that the crime of fraud, any fraud, and the law had it fraud only over $10,000. So we have modified the law. It will now be any act of fraud against the United States, against these local and state jurisdictions, and it will require that these non-citizens, naturalized citizens, green card holders, permanent residents be apprehended when there is that accusation and indictment on fraud and held, and any court can handle that denaturalization hearing. So that denaturalization would become immediate and would follow with the immediate deportation.
It is sad. They're taking advantage of the generosity of America. And whether we're talking about, fraud, like monetary fraud or, immigration fraud, there's a lot of that as well. And so I think that part of what the Trump administration needs to do, and I think that we're all realizing, and you just touched on it, how rampant this may be. This is why the Trump administration has said, okay, California, Illinois, I think there's a couple of other states as well. They're putting the brakes on some of this funding so that we can figure out just how rampant this fraud is. Senator, to be honest with you, it's horrifying and scary.
Well, it really is, and it is not only in the child care programs, but it is in elder care programs. It is in daycare programs. It is in drug addiction, homelessness programs. You're seeing and hearing, and there are an incredible number of whistleblowers, some of them in the communities, and some that are working in state government, like in Minnesota. They continually try to get the attorney general and the governor to pay attention to this, and they refuse to either acknowledge it or to investigate it. And so by tightening up this fraud standard, what we do is say all of this fraud is a crime. You don't have to go in and just see, does it hit this certain limit? It is all a crime, and it would call for your immediate denaturalization. And you mentioned the other states, and $11 billion in funds going to California, Colorado, Illinois, New York, Wisconsin. These funds have been frozen because there has been reported fraud that is there. So I think what you're going to see is state legislatures and governors are going to turn their attention to going through all of these programs to make certain that the nonprofits that are getting these grants, that the agencies that are utilizing these funds, that they're dotting their I's, they're crossing their T's, and that the programs are truly meeting the needs of the vulnerable right now, what we have seen in Minnesota is the ticker is up at $9 billion right now, and the number grows every single day. And then you're looking at these sham companies, and people are saying, how is it that this could have happened, that there could have been no oversight, and how do we root this out? So at your local and state level, there's going to be a good bit of participation for rooting this out and making certain that indeed, as federal funds are transferred to the states and then to these local agencies and nonprofits, that everyone in that pipeline is a good steward of the hardworking taxpayers' dollar.
Senator, I know there's so many things that I want to talk to you about, and our time is limited. Very much in the news today, top of the headlines on CNN, other than the shooting in Minneapolis, is the possible purchasing of Greenland. The president, the Trump administration, has said they're not taking military action off the table. Broad brush, what's your thought on the possible purchase of Greenland?
Broad brush there, Greenland is a strategic location for us militarily. We already have a presence there. In Greenland itself, the 55,000 residents that are there are wanting to seek their independence from Denmark. It is appropriate that we try to bolster our relationship with Greenland because of the positioning between Russia, between Europe, and the strategic importance of Greenland to our military and national security efforts. I think what you will see is the president will try to get NATO members, Denmark, Greenland to the table and talk about how we most effectively have a partnership with Greenland in order to protect the United States and to look at the strategic importance of how we build out our Gold Dome, which will be that missile defense system that the president is focused on.
Senator, that's all the time we have. As always, love to have you on, and a lot of things going on, and appreciate your perspective on all of them. Senator Marsha Blackburn on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. The Super Text line is open, 615-737-9986, 615-737 WWTN. You know, it is interesting. We all know Senator Blackburn is running for governor.
Marsha!
Oh, would you stop it?
I couldn't.
What is wrong with you?
Couldn't help myself.
Anyway, but one of the things that I was going to ask her, but I just, there's so many things. I did want to ask her, all right, so as a governor, do you feel like the inflammatory words of Tim Walz are appropriate at a time like this? I know what her answer would have been, so I didn't bother to ask the question. But, you know, clearly what Tim Walz had to say yesterday following the shooting, clearly inflammatory. He is now calling in the National Guard. CNN is now reporting, this is just to get you up on the very latest, CNN is reporting that the vehicle that was driven by Renee Good was blocking the intersection for 3 minutes as ICE agents were trying to get through. And of course, that led to the ICE agents telling her to get out of the car. She refused. She stepped on the gas and she was headed towards an ICE agent who then, in my opinion, an act of self-defense, pulled the trigger 3 times. And Renee Good, a mother of 3, including a 6-year-old, is dead. And I agree with Scott Jennings and many other people out there with a lick of common sense who say, listen, people are calling this a tragedy. It is absolutely a tragedy because a mother of a 6-year-old should not put herself in a position that is dangerous. You have a responsibility to your children. So, yeah, it is a tragedy, absolutely preventable. Renee Good's wife, by the way, is out there saying that she, as in the wife, kind of forced Renee Good into this protest or whatever it is that you want to call it.
She was out filming the outside of the car and everything.
Yeah. If you were watching the video, I think it was her that was, screaming at ICE agents and so forth. It's full of expletives, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm not going to air it, can't air it. It's horrifying enough to watch it. Don't need to hear all that this morning. But
her intent was to record that stuff and post it for the likes and for the shares.
Well, that's exactly right. And as Scott Jennings said, you know what? When did First Amendment right to protest include jumping in a car, jumping in a convoy, and trying to stop federal agents from doing their job? So, to me, and if you've been listening all morning long, you know where I stand on this. You're probably not surprised. This is a horrific, terrifying, stupid situation that she put herself in, and she drove that vehicle right towards the police officer. She was turning the wheel to the right, but the car did bump the officer, and he did fire, in my opinion, in self-defense. It is 7:52 on Super Talk, and Jay's got the news at 8. Jay.
Yes, sir, Dan. As you've been discussing this morning, tensions indeed running high in the wake of that shooting involving an ICE agent. And also Republican pushback. The president's efforts to get Greenland, not every Republican hip to the idea. And Dan, I do have the audio that we played earlier. You were wondering who that Republican was raising Cain.
Yes.
It's Tom Tillis out of North Carolina. We'll have that again for you at the top of the hour on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Man, we got some incredible technology at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. They've always got new ways to solve your pain problems. It is called the Hydro Wave, and this Hydro Wave can help you. From the Wellness Institute of Nashville, you can start the new year by healing you with their Hydro Wave, and of course, along with the non-surgical spinal decompression therapy. Wellness Institute of Nashville can help you like they helped me. So if you've got back or neck pain, sciatica, slipped or bulging spinal discs, herniated discs, spinal stenosis, numbness or weakness in the arms and legs, fingers or toes, that can be a past memory of yesteryear with the Hydro Wave at the Wellness Institute of Nashville. And by the way, they've got a great new deal going on right now. New in 2026, it is a special 47% off non-surgical decompression for the new year. That is a huge discount for 2026. 47% off non-surgical decompression for the new year. Be sure and tell him Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 615-246-5009. 615-246-5009. 615-246-5009. Their website is painisbad.com. By the way, Marco Rubio is going to meet next week with Danish officials to discuss Greenland. Can't wait for that. 615-246-5009. Painisbad.com.
Our part.
Hey, listen to this. I don't know why I find this funny. 1834 is just hate texting, right? So I'm just following along. 7:40 this morning. Anyone with eyes can see the video and see what happened. 7:50. What a shameful excuse of a human being. Talking about me. What a shameful excuse of a human being. 7:51. If you really believe that, you are lost, Dan. 7:53. Not surprised you are a MAGA windbag. Do you know what? Of all the things, Jay, I have never been called a windbag.
Windbag. Yeah, that's a new one. I'm reading along with you here, Dan. I see this stuff. I see it's a 901 area code. I don't know. Maybe, you were speaking so favorably of Memphis, the mayor, and whatnot here earlier.
He also says Nashville deserves better than you.
Yeah.
And then he tells me to tell the truth.
Tell the truth.
Tell the truth. Hey, 1834, just to make my day, will you text in shame? I think that'd be funny. All right. People didn't think your Marsha was funny either, Sam.
I beg to differ. The YouTube chat loved it.
There's a time and a place. At least you did it after she had hung up.
Oh, yeah, no. I figured if I did it as she was coming into the show, it would have resulted in probably the most glorious well Dan of all time.
Apparently, there is a vigil outside of DHS in Nashville this morning, and there's going to be some sort of a protest tonight at 5:30 in Centennial Park on Reddit. That's what people are saying on Reddit. So, according to Chris Hand, so we'll see what happens. It is 8:00 on WTN.
It is 8 a.m. I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. Traffic and weather are next. Some people on edge after the deadly ICE shooting in Minneapolis, in which officials say a woman threatened agents with her vehicle yesterday. ABC News correspondent Alex Perez, he's at the scene.
We have our own medics.
Where are they?
DHS Secretary Kristi Noem, who has deployed 2,000 federal officers to Minnesota, says the shooting was justified and argues the agent feared for his life.
This appears as an attempt to kill or to cause bodily harm to agents, an act of domestic terrorism.
But state officials and the mayor of Minneapolis dispute the account from the feds and say the woman posed no threat. Demonstrators taking to the streets after the shooting.
Republican pushback against President Trump's effort to pressure Denmark, a NATO ally, into just handing over Greenland. ABC's Christiane Cordero has more.
Folks, amateur hour is over.
Senator Tom Tillis attacking Trump aide Stephen Miller for recently claiming that it's obvious Greenland should be part of the U.S.
Turning around and making insane comments about how it is our right to have territory owned by the Kingdom of Denmark.
The U.S. recognized Danish sovereignty over Greenland more than a century ago. And while treaties allow the U.S. to operate military bases there, they do not give the U.S. ownership.
The Trump administration now has unveiled new dietary guidelines emphasizing protein, whole grains, and healthy fats, and for the first time, calling out the dangers of highly processed foods. In a more controversial move, ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Darren Sutton reports the plan also puts a larger emphasis on whole milk and cheese, as well as red meat.
Protein is important and essential, and you want to try to get it at every meal, but you also want to understand that not every protein is the same. And although red meat is what we call a full protein, we know through data, we know through studies that a high consumption of red meat is associated with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease and colon cancer.
Back here in Tennessee, calls are growing to close what some Tennesseans describe as a loophole that allows people without a driver's license or insurance to still get a license plate. Under current Tennessee law, a person can register a vehicle without having a valid driver's license or proof of insurance. That includes undocumented immigrants. According to the state, acceptable forms of ID to register a vehicle and get a plate include documents such as a check stub or work ID. Proof of residency, according to the state, can also include utility bills and bank statements. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News. We've got the HOV lane blocked in Laverne due to a crash 24 westbound near the Old Hickory Boulevard exit. That's exit 62. An injury crash in Antioch, Murfreesboro Pike at Mountain View Road. Also a crash reported down in the College Grove area of Williamson County. 840 westbound just past the Murfreesboro Road overpass. And finally in Rutherford County over by Murfreesboro, a crash New Salem Highway at Old Salem Road. We've got your traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
We talk.
8:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Super Text line is very active this morning. Thank you very much. You know what somebody said, Jay Harper and Sam Rutherford? Mandis may be a windbag, but he's the windbag that Nashville needs.
Damn straight we did.
That's exactly right. You know, it's so funny. I'm going to this next interview. I'm a little worried because apparently we called Jonathan Fahey in the middle of a highfalutin interview with Maria Bartiromo. And Jonathan, I just want to let you know that when you go on these highfalutin interviews, turn your cell phone off. Did it go off literally in that? Because we called earlier at 6:36. We had rescheduled and I forgot. So we called you and you were on the set or whatever on Fox Business with Maria Bartiromo, and your phone goes off, and it was Sam. It wasn't me. It was Sam. So did it go off like right in the interview?
No, it was all good. All good.
Okay.
It was during a break, and no disruption for me at all.
Okay, because Sam said you were really angry. I'm totally kidding.
No.
All right, so everybody wants to talk to you because you are, of course, former acting director of ICE, a highfalutin attorney at that. So I wanted to have you on to talk to you about a number of different things. We've all now seen the video of what happened in Minnesota. you've got the left saying, and a couple of people on the super text line saying it was murder. I don't believe it was murder, but there are people on the left saying it was murder. Folks on the right saying it was, because it does fall under party lines. People on the right saying it was self-defense. What say you as an attorney?
It is self-defense, and these types of cases, it's a unique case in many respects, but these situations are not that unusual. And when you look at the video, this is a typical type of thing that when the FBI looks at this, they will rule that this is self-defense, or that will be their judgment. At least that's my judgment at this point from what I've seen, because it seems very clear that the woman she was given a lawful order, so she was not to get out of the car. She was not free to leave. So that's number one. And then she starts driving towards the officer in a deadly weapon, because a car is a deadly weapon. Getting struck by a car even at 5, 10, 15 miles an hour could kill you or certainly badly injure you. And she drove directly at the officer. So the officer had every right, and I would say more than a right, a responsibility to defend himself and others, because at that point he knows she is fleeing, doesn't know if she's engaged in other criminal conduct as well, and knows there are other agents and officers potentially behind him, as well as members of the public. So all of those reasons, I think required him to use force. It's very sad that someone died, and I think part of the responsibility should lay at the feet of people like Tim Walz, stirring up all of these people. But yeah, I don't think this will be a close case. However, I think the way it will break down is the federal government will decide not to charge him. The state will probably charge him for political reasons. It will then get dismissed under the supremacy clause, or that would be the argument to dismiss it under the supremacy clause, because the officer has what they call federal officer immunity or supremacy clause immunity, which dates back to, I think, 1890. It's a very established precedent. So, but a long answer to say this was justified. The fact that it's breaking down party lines, I know where I come out politically, but I still have done these types of things in a non-political setting, and this is the type of thing that is a classic self-defense and consistent with the way these guys are trained. And those would be interesting guests to get on, but people that train officers teach them a car is a deadly weapon. So, this officer did probably everything he was supposed to do consistently with the way he was trained.
There's some people that are saying that Tim Walz, Jacob Fry, that they have some culpability here, some responsibility, because they've been, my phrase that I use, ginning up all of this anger. I spoke earlier about how I believe that the reason why Tim Walz and Jacob Fry and others in the Democrat Party, the reason why they continue to try to gin up all this anger is because they're losing policy-wise. The economy is getting better, and, we got a lot of, you got the borders closed, and we're trying to get rid of, the illegal aliens and so forth. And, by and large, the Trump administration is doing a lot of good. And I think that the folks on the left are realizing that they're running out of options, and it's time to, heading into 2026 and the midterm elections, they need to start their grievance politics again and try to do the whole victim mentality thing and, taking to the streets and all that stuff that they do, because they benefit from the chaos. So you've got Tim Walz and Jacob Fry, and could they face any possible, charges here or anything because of this whole ginning up or anger that they're cultivating against ICE? That's part one of the question, of the long-winded question. Number two is Jacob Fry yesterday, he said that the ICE agents were going to say that it was, and I'm paraphrasing, self-defense. And then he said that is BS. Could that be considered jury tampering?
Well, I don't think it'd be considered jury tampering when there hasn't been charges filed, but I certainly think it would be a reason if somebody were to be charged to try to change the venue of the case. But I think you're exactly right on a couple of fronts that, they have been ginning things up to, because I think Jacob Fry wants basically a George Floyd 2.0. And it's sad, but that was his high watermark. And when things are going well policy, the Democrats, what do they want to do? Burn things down, tear things down. And I think as far as charges, the thing I've always thought for a lot of these sanctuary cities is the charges that they really seem to be applicable would be things like alien harboring, because they're using their positions and their authority to keep illegal aliens in the country. And that's a lot of what this is about as well. It's keeping the illegal aliens in the country.
One of the things that is CNN had this morning, I thought it was rather humorous. CNN had this morning where they said that they know what the vehicle was doing moments before the shooting, and it turns out that she was blocking the intersection and the progress of ICE for 3 minutes. Now, I believe that that's probably a crime. I don't know what it would be, but that's number one. But number two, so we seem to have gotten into a place in our country where, protesting is now impeding the ability of ICE to do their job, as opposed to, a sign on the sidewalk or whatever. It's like you now have people on the left that are actively trying to stop federal agencies from doing their jobs. And that's not, your constitutional right to protest. That is impeding an investigation or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really good point, that it's like, yeah, they're not really protesting. Like, they're not trying to get their voice or their opinion heard. They are trying to prevent the agents from doing their job, from accomplishing what they are required to do. So, yeah, I think all of that is, just sort of apparent here, that these protesters are disruptors. They're part of the Democrats. We talked about before, they want an open border. They want mass amnesty. So they are doing everything to prevent any deportation they can. And, we've seen it every step of the way. There's almost, you can't think of a single deportation that they seem to support. And it's really incredible if you think about it. I mean, think how much effort they've spent to, keep Maryland man in the country. It's just astonishing when you think about it.
Going to check traffic, and then we're going to come back to you. Jonathan Fahey joining us on Super Talk 99.7. Time to check the roads on WTN.
Also, I'm about to send you a clip.
There's an accident, and at B&A Murfreesboro Pike, we've got a crash at Dell Parkway. I'm Christy O'Brien.
As far as your weather goes, it's going to be cloudy but warm today, a high near 70. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Jonathan Fahey joins us. And Jonathan, I just had Senator Marsha Blackburn on the radio program. And one of the things that they're looking to do is for all of these, because you and I have talked about the fraudsters, the fraud that is going on in Minnesota as well, particularly the immigration fraud. And so what they are looking to do is denaturalize and deport these fraudsters. And so, you, of course, you're very involved in this kind of thing. What do you think about that idea? Should they immediately be, denaturalized and maybe sent back to where they came from? Is it better for us to put them in a prison here in America? What are the different legal options there?
Yeah, I think if we could denaturalize any of these people, if we have the authority to do it, these people involved in the fraud and naturalization fraud or this welfare fraud, anything else, I think remove them from the country, send them back to Somalia. It's a far greater punishment than probably going to, Club Fed. So I think, yes, I think she is spot on with that. And we need to send a message that this stuff needs to stop. It's incredible how bad it is. And I think one of the things that was so striking about when you're watching I don't know if you watched any of that hearing yesterday, but just, it's not only so bad, but, the Somali community, I think 80% of them are on some form of welfare. So it just sort of goes back to the overall question is, what do we want our immigration policy to look like? Do we want people that are going to come in and contribute, or come in and, take from American people, in terms of benefits and things of that nature? And I think that's a real question when we have an immigration policy that, certainly under the Biden administration, and even before that, almost never seems to be in the interest of the American people. It's always in the interest of the illegal immigrants or the legal immigrants or the Democratic Party, and the American people always end up, being left out of the policymaking part of the equation, but also end up footing the bill.
And that is something that it demands to be a national conversation about who are we, and Trump has talked about this for a long time, since back in the first administration. There's got to be a way for us to demand that the people that want to come into our country legally, that they actually be able to contribute as opposed to being on some sort of a public benefit. You're right, 80% of these folks are on some sort of government benefit. That's number one. There was also a story that said that 50% of them were here with some sort of immigration fraud. I mean, how difficult, just putting your political hat on, but I mean, why is this so difficult of a concept to understand? I don't want to be on a government benefit, and I also don't want other people to be on a government benefit. If we're going to allow people to come into our country, they need to be able to take advantage of America's opportunities and be able to, contribute and make their own way.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's mind-boggling to think that anyone would see it differently. Yeah, there's no scenario, or almost no scenario, that somebody should be able to come in here and immediately go on welfare. And I don't want to say there's not exceptions or hardships that may happen, but it's like, and if you're coming from Somalia and going on welfare in this country, like, that is a major upgrade in their standard of living. And, so their lives are much better. They don't have to work. We all get to pay the bill. But yeah, anyone that comes to this country, that the question should be, will they make America better off, and without imposing additional security, safety risks, and will they assimilate? And is the Somali community even trying to assimilate?
No.
It doesn't seem like it.
They're not trying to assimilate. Or they just pretend not to speak English when somebody like Nick Shirley is asking about, hey, it's a daycare center in the middle of the day. Why don't you have any kids here?
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of amazing if you think about it. If you were to move to a foreign country and live there for 10 years, the fact that it seems inconceivable that you would not pick up the language, right? And it doesn't, it seems like a high percentage of the Somali community doesn't even speak English even after being here 10 plus years. It's really astonishing, but it does show that there's something wrong with our immigration system, in so many respects, but the fact that this ever occurred, and then you have people like Waltz and Fry that just, the level of pandering to the Somali community. They changed the state flag, and it's like a doppelganger for the Somali flag, but they act like that was just some, it had nothing to do with it.
Just random thing we just decided to do.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Do you think as an attorney, last question, do you think as an attorney, knowing what we know and knowing that we don't know everything about the fraud issue in Minnesota, but, there are some lawmakers that are saying that they want to bring up Tim Waltz, bring him up on some sort of charges. We also know that Keith Ellison has received financial donations from those in Minnesota that were involved in these fraudulent groups. There's even some audio out there, as a matter of fact, that, some say proves that Keith Ellison, the Attorney General, actually actively worked to help cover up the fraud with these organizations. Do you see a point in time where we actually can look forward to them being brought up on actual charges?
My gut feeling, only knowing what I see on TV and everything else, I don't think so. I don't think there'll be enough there. I think it was probably going to be more of the world of like just sort of turning a blind eye to things and things of that nature. However, I don't really know what they'll ultimately find out. And I expect when they really dig into this, they're going to be extensive interviewing, looking at records, looking at emails, looking at communications. And that would be the interesting thing to see what they did know, what they did to advance it, what if they did anything to cover it up. And I think that would be the area that I think could be the more likely area that charges could be brought if they knew the fraud was going on, even if they didn't participate in the fraud, but then they try to cover it up for either political or other reasons. That could be a problem for them.
All right, Jonathan Fahey, always great to have you on, and we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you.
All righty. Poor Jonathan had the worst flu. You seen the flu that's going around? We had the worst flu in our house. Somehow, knock on wood, I didn't get it. But man, Riker and Amy, the two of them, Amy's still recovering. She's got a hack like she's been smoking Pall Malls for 20 years.
Oh, my gosh.
She's trying to sleep last night. And it's like, can you go downstairs and work? Because her desk is right outside my bedroom door. Anyway, whatever. So glad he's feeling better. It is 8:23, and 4913 says, Dan, you are the windbag beneath our wings. Very nice. Do you know what's so funny? I actually don't mind being called a windbag because that's what they said of El Rushbo, right? They always called him a windbag. Now, please understand, there's no way, shape, or form that I am anything up to the level of Rush Limbaugh. However, if somebody calls me a windbag, which is what they used to call El Rushbo, I'll take it. I'll take it. Not a problem whatsoever. I've been called a lot worse, trust me. 8:24, time to find out from Jay Harper what's coming up in the news at 8:30.
Yes, sir, Dan. The president in a new interview giving his latest and perhaps new thoughts on Venezuela. And a scheduled spacewalk by U.S. astronauts has been mysteriously canceled. We'll have all of that and more coming up at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you very much, Jay. It is 8:24 on Super Talk. Mark Spain Real Estate. Start the year off stress-free and sell your home with Mark Spain Real Estate's guaranteed offer. You are going to save time, make the most money, and eliminate all that hassle. You don't have to worry about the hassle of constant cleanings and making costly repairs when you sell your home through Mark Spain Real Estate. And yes, you can move when you want to move. With Mark Spain Real Estate's guaranteed offer, you can receive the strongest all-cash offer in the industry. And again, move when you're ready. There's no showings, no open houses, and no stress. Selling your home is one of the biggest financial decisions you are ever going to make. So who you work with matters. They've got over 14,000 five-star reviews. You can trust the most experienced real estate team in America to sell your home quickly and for top dollar. So find out what your guaranteed offer would be. There's no obligation. Call them at 855-299-SOLD, 855-299-SOLD. Find them online anytime. Mark Spain Real Estate, markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today. That's markspain.com and start packing. Dan Mandis here for my friends at Loan Pronto, the best financial move you can make this time of year. How about lowering your mortgage rate to 4.99% fixed APR? That is the lowest rate in years with Loan Pronto. How about getting up to $500,000 out of your home's equity in the process? Again, you can do it right now by calling Loan Pronto with their rapid equity loan. You can get a ton of cash, pay off all of those high-interest credit cards, and skip up to 2 house payments as well. One homeowner going through Loan Pronto just got $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. Wiped out their credit cards and a couple of car loans as well. And ultimately, they saved $2,100 every single month. And they can help you as well. There's no hard credit pull up front, and you probably won't even need an appraisal on your home. Just fast, easy cash from your home's equity. Act right now. Call them, 615-499-5780, 615-499-5780. Find them online, loanpronto.com, and see how much money you can save today. Loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. APR for well-qualified buyers. Visit NMLSconsumeraccess.org. 8:29, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Coming up, the crisscross handoff. Looking forward to speaking to Chris. And we've got some audio. I cannot wait to play it for you. Sam just sent it to me, and it is how to survive a situation like we saw yesterday in Minnesota. We'll talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead. It is Nashville's Morning News, Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
It is 8:30, and I'm Jay Harper with your top stories. We'll have a traffic report as well as another weather forecast coming up. In a new interview, President Trump says the U.S. will be running Venezuela and extracting oil from its reserves for years, following the U.S. capture of ousted President Nicolas Maduro. Trump telling the New York Times, quote, "We're giving oil prices down, and we're going to be giving money to Venezuela, which they desperately need," unquote. ABC News Chief White House correspondent Mary Bruce with more.
President Trump tells the Times the interim government of loyalists to captured leader Nicolas Maduro is, quote, "giving us everything we feel is necessary." And he made no commitments about when elections will be held in Venezuela.
It's a mystery in space. ABC's Jim Ryan says NASA has scrapped a spacewalk that had been scheduled for today.
In what was to be the first extravehicular activity, or EVA, of 2026, astronauts Mike Finke and flight engineer Zena Cardman were to don their spacesuits and climb outside the International Space Station for a 6.5-hour spacewalk to install equipment and take some photos. But late yesterday, NASA called it off because of a medical condition with a crew member. The space agency won't be specific about what the condition is or which crew member was involved.
Let's turn now to the market numbers report. It's brought to you by Beacon Capital Management. They are online at beaconcm.com. Let's turn once again to Jim Ryan.
The Dow Jones on Wednesday pulled way back from the record it set earlier in the week, giving up 466 points yesterday to close back below 49,000. The S&P lost 0.33%, but the Nasdaq Composite rose slightly on the strength of tech stocks. Among the tech giants, Samsung expects its operating profit to have tripled in the final 3 months of last year to nearly $14 billion. Industry watchers cite surging demand for Samsung's AI-related semiconductors. Job hunters are finding fewer options. New federal numbers show openings in November fell to a 14-month low. But at the same time, the pace of layoffs has also slowed, solidifying what economists are calling a no-hire, no-fire situation. Consumers are getting a break on their grocery bills. The National Milk Producers Federation tells USA Today that oversupply and weakening demand are pushing down the price of dairy products.
Let's take a look at the stocks now. The Dow down 51. The S&P is down 6. The Nasdaq, it's down 66. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather are next. I'm Jay Harper, WTN News.
Thank you, Jay. 8:32, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Window Nation. I've got... Did that go out over the air? Chris Hand is playing with his phone in the studio. I'm trying to broadcast here, you numbskull.
I was hoping to hear more about Window Nation.
You know what? You're going to for like 60 seconds, if not more, thanks to that. You know, Chris, did you know that I've got 4 windows from Window Nation in my home? 2 in my basement studio, 1 in my kitchen, and 1 in my bedroom as well. This is a great window company, and right now, they are in the midst of a great sale going on in January. It is Window Nation's Buy 4, Get 4 Windows Free sale. Again, it is going on right now. If you're tired of your home being uncomfortably cold and your electric and oil bills are shockingly expensive this year, check out my friends at Window Nation and upgrade those windows. Again, their Buy 4, Get 4 Windows Free sale. It is going on right now. It is a great time to replace all of the windows in your home. How good are they? They've got an A-plus rating from the Better Business Bureau and a 96% customer satisfaction rating. And in addition to that great deal, Buy 4, Get Windows Free sale going on right now, you can also get them with 0 money down, 0 monthly payments, and 0 interest for 2 years. Call them, 866-90-NATION, 866-90-NATION, windownation.com. Dan Mandis here for my friends at DT McCall's. Now, this is a great Tennessee company. Here for their fellow Tennesseans with great prices, selection, and value. The latest appliance that I bought from DT McCall's, a great refrigerator for my garage. I think I've got like 3 appliances now from DT McCall's. If you need indoor furniture, if you've got a room to fill, head on over to DT McCall's, one of their 5 locations, or do what I do. Find them online, dtmccalls.com. Every time an appliance breaks in my house, if it plugs in, they've got it. And they've always got specials going on to save you money. Again, at their website, dtmccalls.com. They've got specials and great prices on the best brands of appliances, like washer and dryer sets, dishwashers, and a whole lot more. They've been at it for over 100 years with a focus on customer service. And if you buy it, they are going to deliver it for free and haul away the old stuff. I said 5 locations across Middle Tennessee, Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, and Franklin, always online. dtmccalls.com.
Problems on Murfreesboro Pike today. Let's see, we're in Antioch here now with Murfreesboro Pike. Northbound at Mountain View Road, it is closed there. There is a crash, and they've got the road totally blocked off. Also, Murfreesboro Pike at Foster Avenue, we've got an injury crash there. 24 westbound near Old Hickory Boulevard, we've got a crash in Laverne near exit 62. And in Williamson County, clearing this wreck, 840 westbound just past the Murfreesboro Road overpass. Traffic every 10 minutes is right here every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Eight 8:38, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Obviously, Chris is like...
Yeah, it was like finally got some good bumper music.
The whole headbanging thing.
So it was more of a nod.
Okay.
Less of a bang.
Head nod.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, what is this? Should I even ask? Do I care?
A little Eazy-E.
Eazy-E?
Boys in the Hood.
Eazy-E. All right.
You know, because he's Easy C.
Okay.
Can I be Easy D?
Okay, guys.
Hey, I got called a windbag today.
Let's just get back to Journey.
For me to ride you like you've never been ridden.
All right. Anyway.
Yeah, you got called a windbag.
I did.
And then I get a text from Murphy. And Murphy, did you see the text from Murphy?
No.
Murphy says, Dan gets called names, so he compares himself to Rush Limbaugh. I need you to bring this up during the crisscross handoff.
I was very careful not to say that I'm Rush Limbaugh. Yet.
Damn straight we did.
At some point, I hope to become Rush Limbaugh. I've only been doing this many, many years. I think I've tapped out on how good I'm going to be.
I feel like you've peaked.
I peaked. Thank you.
I don't know. It didn't offend me the way I think it offended Murphy.
You know what, Murphy? I did not see that text. Was it to all? Yeah, it is. All right, there you go.
Oh, he put it in the group text.
Yeah, I was sending memes. I sent the meme that you sent about the Minnesotans and how they deal with the police authorities to the guys, and then Matt Murphy chimed in about the El Rushbo stuff.
All right, very good. Hey, listen, whatever.
I'm sure we'll hear about it about around 3:00.
Did you see his house?
His house is really nice.
Holy mackerel!
Congratulations,
Murphy.
I know.
Like, I'm really happy.
Yeah, looks like a big estate, not just a house.
It's the Murphy estate, is
Correct.
what it is.
Murph Mansion.
Listen, if I get kicked out of my house for saying that my wife sounds like she's been smoking a big old pack of Pall Malls because of that post-flu cough, you didn't hear that.
Okay.
Matt, just so you know, I know that you've got like an entire downstairs I can occupy. So when Amy finally kicks me out, I'm coming to wherever he lives.
Mount Pleasant. He's going to be the mayor of Mount Pleasant.
Really?
Yep.
Okay, the mayor of Mount Pleasant. Very good.
I'm under the impression that they're gonna need to do some homesteading there on the Murphy Ranch. They're gonna need some chickens. They're gonna need some goats. They need to step it up.
I don't know. Is Murphy Show the homesteading kind of guy?
I feel like Erica would do chickens, right?
Well, if
Am I wrong for thinking
chickens, you got to cut their heads off and eat them, unless you're talking about.
Not necessarily. You could just keep them for the eggs.
You could, but what happens if the chicken doesn't lay eggs? Then you got to kill them, right?
Got to.
Otherwise, what good are they? All they do then is just.
That's all they do.
Hey, I noticed something. Whatever.
Okay. What did you notice?
Okay, this is. Make sure my audio's up. This is Jay. You sent this to me. This is Tom Tillis.
Correct. Republican Senator, North Carolina.
All right. Listen to the outgoing, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Turning around and making insane comments about how it is our right to have territory owned by the Kingdom of Denmark. Folks, amateur hour is over.
That's Tom Tillis.
Yeah, and screw Denmark for the record.
Yeah. It is so uncanny how he sounds exactly like, at the time, another outgoing senator, Bob Corker.
But no. Gosh, we might poke the bear, is the language I've been hearing in the hallways. We might poke the bear. The president might get upset with us.
It's uncanny how they sound exactly. Is it just me?
Yeah, I agree. And to me, that guy sounds like Barney Fife.
You know, they all sound like rhinos, don't they? Listen again. I'm going to play them both back to back.
Turning around and making insane comments about how it is our right to have territory owned by the Kingdom of Denmark. Folks, amateur hour is over.
But no. Gosh, we might poke the bear, is the language I've been hearing in the hallways. We might poke the bear. The president might get upset with us.
Clones confirmed.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. All those rhinos sound alike. What it is.
Now do Lindsey Graham. He probably sounds pretty similar, too.
He probably, you know what? He probably does, matter of fact.
Probably a little bit more effeminate.
You know, I thought that would be a better bit. I guess not. I heard what you said.
What?
He'd probably sound more effeminate.
Lindsey Graham?
Lindsey Graham?
Lindsey Graham has that accent where you're like, are you gay or just really Southern?
Well, you know, having lived in South Carolina, matter of fact, living very close to where Lindsey Graham lived. Anyway, you know, the big rumor down there is that he is, in fact, you know, a little light in the loafers. You know, he's never married. So, not that that's necessarily a
Jay, just so we're clear,
but,
you could say gay.
Okay, well.
Chris says it all the time.
He has an affinity for skipping.
Oh, my goodness.
He doesn't like the ladies.
He likes war, though.
He does like war.
He likes bombing stuff.
He likes those missiles.
He
Lindsey
does.
Graham likes those missiles.
He loves those missiles.
They're a little phallic.
Why do you guys always do this? I always feel like I'm about to get.
You're the one that brought up the missiles exploding.
Spare me.
Yeah, yesterday it was Chicago where we went off in the ditch on that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Anyway, Sam sent me something as well.
things.
Do you have that queued up, Sam?
So I've got the Representative Gill audio.
Brandon Gill.
Yeah, absolutely lays in about the misuse of federal funds in Minnesota.
Brandon Gill's pretty based.
He is. He is turned into one of my favorite non-Tennessee congressmen.
So is it just me, or when somebody kind of feels like they pop out of nowhere and you really like them, it just makes you immediately suspicious of them?
No.
Yeah.
Really?
No.
Immediately. If I feel like if you come out of nowhere and then you're saying base things, I'm like, okay, a little too good to be true.
Are you hitching onto the bandwagon?
Well, I did a dig on him.
Well, Brandon Gill's been around a while.
Yeah, and he actually did a lot of conservative stuff and ran conservative papers in college and started a conservative media company. And you know who he's married to?
Who?
Dinesh D'Souza's daughter.
Okay.
Wow.
Danielle D'Souza.
Colonialism strikes again.
Jeez.
Okay, go ahead and play that Brandon Gill audio, would you?
Let me ask you, does large-scale Somali immigration make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Certainly stronger.
Certainly stronger. Do you know what percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on food stamps?
No.
54%. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Well, to be clear, a majority of the...
It's 7%. There's a big difference between 54% and 7%, is there not?
Excuse me, sir, could I answer the question?
Let me move on. We've got a lot of questions here. What percentage of Somali-headed households in Minnesota are on Medicaid?
I don't know.
It's 73%. Do you know what that number is for Minnesota native households?
Again, you're using the phrase Minnesota native households, but the majority...
The number is 18%. That's quite an astounding difference. I think we would agree.
Can I answer the question, please?
Let me ask you one more, and then we can go on to that. What percentage of Somali-headed households are on welfare in general?
I don't know.
It's 81%. What about, let me just ask you, after 10 years of being in the United States, what percentage of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare?
I don't know.
The number is 78%. So even after 10 years, 78% of Somali immigrant households continue to be on welfare. Do you know what that number is for native Minnesota-headed households?
Again, you're using
non-Somali immigrant-headed households.
If I can just answer the question, when you're using the phrase native Minnesotans, the majority of Somali Minnesotans are as Minnesotan as any of us. They were born in the United States. It's only 8,000 of the 108,000 Somali.
Nevertheless, the welfare usage is astoundingly different. Let me ask you again, does that make Minnesota stronger or weaker?
Again, I'd like the opportunity to answer the question here.
All right, so
he can't
who was he talking to? Who was that guy? Do you know?
I do not. That was at the hearings yesterday.
Yeah, it was at the hearings yesterday, which I haven't even gotten to. So if you've got audio on that, that'd be great.
I have not had an opportunity to dig in. I was playing some of it yesterday as it was happening live, but then all of a sudden the breaking news completely took over. But they're all doing this. They're all saying that the Somalis built everything and we'd have nothing without the Somalis, even though they have a 67 IQ on average, even though about 80% of them are on some form of social program. I heard your interview that you had a little while ago and with Fahey, and he nailed it. He's like, the quality of life goes through the roof if you come from Somalia and you come here and you get on government welfare.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Why would you want to get off? But even crazier was the mayor of Boston. I just DM'd this to you on X. The mayor of Boston, this was like right before Christmas, so it kind of went unnoticed.
Okay.
Michelle Wu, the same mayor who did the whites only Christmas, no whites allowed Christmas party in Boston.
Oh yeah.
The Asian mayor of Boston said that Somalis built the city of Boston.
They did.
They built it.
Wow. Okay. Well, let's hear this. I've got it queued up real quick, and here we go in 3, 2, 1.
You cannot talk about any achievement that the city of Boston has had in safety, jobs, and economic development, in education, without talking about the Somali community that has lifted our city up.
I wonder how the Irish would feel about that statement.
Well, I went back. I actually did some history, and there was a lot of Somalis during the Boston Tea Party that were very upset that the British were taxing the tea. They built it from the ground up.
From the ground up.
We're proud, and we are grateful for our Somali community and for our Somali American neighbors. Boston and the country are clear that hate has no place in our society.
Is it okay if we hate the fraud?
Yeah.
Like, is it okay with the left if we actually hate the fraud that comes with all this?
Is it okay if we hate the fact that people come to America and refuse to assimilate to the American way of life?
Mm-hmm.
So we had a friend. We have a friend who they worked in Minnesota for quite a while. They ran a company there, and they hired a Somali. And this is just to show that like the assimilation isn't happening. It's an anecdotal story, but they had a Somali employee, and they had to get HR involved because the Somali employee apparently culturally they don't use toilet paper. They use their hand, and they wipe it on the wall. And I was talking.
Okay, hold on.
I was talking to this guy.
Sam, I want to fact check now.
Fact check it. I was talking to this guy yesterday, and he said it got so bad that they had to get HR involved, and it's a cultural thing.
I just typed in, do Somalis not use? And the next word that Google Auto put up there was toilet paper.
All right. Is it true? Fact check it. Because I can't believe that.
Somalis, like many people in Muslim-majority regions, often use water for cleansing after using the toilet, a practice supported by Islamic tradition.
So, well.
Saving a lot of money.
Saving the trees.
You know what? Two-ply is pretty expensive these days.
Oh, what places are getting two-ply, pray tell?
Not ours. Everybody's laughing.
So your nose isn't the only thing that's red when you leave here?
It's like
that's a nasty one.
We're the home of one ply here at Cumulus Broadcasting. Anyway, yeah. People were making fun of my red nose. Did you know that I had a red nose?
No. It doesn't look that red to me.
Somebody actually now has told me that I probably have like nose skin cancer because I have a red nose. Amy said the other day, she actually said this. She said that I looked good on camera because my nose wasn't as red as it usually is.
What?
That's what she said. And I'm like, what are you talking about?
And then you're getting medical diagnoses via the text line?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, all morning.
And then somebody on the super text line said something about my red nose. And I'm like, guys, why didn't you tell me I had a red nose? I'm 58 years old. I never knew that I had a red nose.
I don't know.
Do you know who else had a red nose? Rush Limbaugh. I'm totally kidding. I'm totally kidding. By the way, people are saying Matt should call, and Matt obviously knows that I wasn't comparing myself to Rush Limbaugh. But I want to say though, thank you to the super text line for reminding me about 75 times I'm the Rush Limbaugh. Thank you for all of that. I very much appreciate it.
El Danbo.
El Danbo. Easy E, Easy D is what I am.
Yep.
Easy D.
Easy D.
Or Dizzy D. There's that too.
That's a nasty one. That's nasty.
So Murphy could call his home Murphy Manor.
He could.
I don't know if he is, but if there's his home looks a lot more like a manor than like mine.
Murphy-Lago.
Murphy-Lago. That's it. That's the
Absolute
winner right there.
Brilliance.
Murphy-Lago.
That is so good. That is good.
Thank you.
Joan would have never come up with something like that.
That's good. All right, very good. What do we got coming up?
Well, we're going to talk about the incident that happened in Minneapolis yesterday. We'll talk about the reaction from the left. We'll talk about conservatives keeping their heads screwed on straight and going, what are you guys talking about? And we'll talk about what happens next. Are we staring down the barrel of a winter of love? Certainly seems that way.
You got all the, I did this earlier, you got a bunch of these activist groups that are headed towards Minnesota.
Incoming.
And you know what? They're professional agitators. They're professional. It's like they're picket signs. You know, they're like easel boards, and it's like pro-Palestine or anti-ICE, whatever it is.
Yep.
Like whatever their grievances of
Fascism with an X through it.
Yeah, that's exactly
right.
You know,
there's a vigil today at outside of DHS in Nashville.
I heard that.
And then I've heard on Reddit that there might be a protest tonight at Centennial Park.
Of all places to protest.
That's where I would always protest.
Go disturb the homeless people.
That's where the is that where I got married? Centennial Park? Is that where the Parthenon is?
I wasn't there.
Yes, that's where the Parthenon is.
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
You got married at the Parthenon?
Yeah.
Yeah, they do that.
It's pretty cool.
It was classic. So talk about the homeless people. So
Were they your ushers?
We were getting ready to get married, and there's like a homeless guy there.
They said we don't have a ring bearer, so you went full Happy Gilmore and went and grabbed one of the guys outside.
I said to my wedding planner, the best wedding planner ever, and I said, we got to do something about the homeless person. Because literally the homeless person was where Amy and I were going to stand to get married. And
you should have left him. It would have been way funnier.
Yeah, great wedding photos.
That's what I said to Amy. I said, you've got to see the humor in this. And she clearly did not. So I didn't say that again. Anyway, so he eventually, I think my wedding planner may have given him like $10 to move.
How awesome would it have been, though, if like you guys are standing there, you're staring at each other lovingly, and then like the lower third of the picture, there's a guy just laying down.
Laying there, newspapers as a blanket and the whole thing.
Yes.
Anyway, we got to go. 8:54 WTN. Jay, what's coming up?
Yes, sir, Dan. Testimony continuing today in the trial of a former Uvalde, Texas police officer. Also, the latest jobless claims figures are in. We'll have that for you as well at 9 a.m. on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.